Clothes. We're gonna go get clothes. Everyone stares at him like he was stupid. Ichigo-kun, I don't think that's a great idea. The people might freak out when they see floating clothes around them. While people can't see or feel them, they can still see clothes floating among them. What if we cover up the clothes with Ryatsu? People can't see Raisher and by that logic should not be able to see clothes that get covered by our Ryatsu. That's genius. That might just work, Ichigo-kun. Do you have any memory of a place to get clothes at? Getting a nod from the redhead, the group follows Ichigo to what the boy hoped was still the shopping district of the town. Unaware of the only set of eyes from the sea of people who could see them. Ichigo. Shopping district. The group was inside one of the many stores found in the shopping district. The guys were on their side of the store trying to find clothes while Lily went to her side. Finishing getting clothes, both men sneak into the men's changing room. Finally getting there, they put on their new clothes. Before coming out, though, they both cover the clothes with a blanket of Raisher. Hoping for Ichigo's little theory to be right. Finishing first, Stark came out wearing a black leather bomber jacket with a fur trim collar and a V-neck white shirt, black jean pants with 3 interconnecting white belts, a black sash worn in a manner similar to a matador, and to finish the touch, black shoes, and gloves. Ichigo came out trying to look cool as Stark. He was wearing a black jacket with the zipper open, a gray t-shirt with the number 15 on his right chest, blue jeans and black high-top shoes. While he didn't find a cool-looking black sash, he did, however, found a cool gray scarf and black snowing goggles. Sure, he wouldn't use those goggles, but damn it, they made him feel, and hopefully, look cool like Stark. The brunette stares down at the boy's weird fashion taste. Was it cold? He didn't feel cold air. He felt the wind, but nothing that told him if it was chilly or not. He shrugged off the redhead's weird taste. You already pumped some Ryatsu into your clothes? Yeah, I just spread it around like how I spread it around my feet to use Sonido. Getting a nod from the man, Ichigo looks around, trying to find the only hollow in their group. Hey, where did Sail go? He went over to Lily since she asked him for some opinions on her clothes. With that being said, both of them started walking towards the voice of Sail, which only they seemed to hear. Even the people already here seemed to ignore it. They even ignored them, clothes included. Stark ruffles Ichigo's hair. It looks like your idea works. Good call, kid. Not hearing Sail anymore, they hurry to the woman's side of the changing room. Finally getting there, they found Lily and Sail already walking out. Lily was wearing a light pink blouse, something that was big enough to fit through her helmet mask. It's also ripped just above her stomach where her hollow hole was at, a white high-collar vest, white arm warmers, some blue shorts that reach mid-thigh and some black high boots. With her hand on her hips, she looks over at Stark and Ichigo. So how do I look? So that's where your hole is at? Ichigo innocently asked her. He actually had never seen it before, so this was a first for him. Ah, that's right. I never showed you my hole before, huh? Innocently replied Lily. Sail got a look of amusement in his eyes. Why, Lily-chan, what other hole are you going to show Ichigo-kun? The hollow let out a perverted laugh. Ichigo and Lily were completely confused by his remark, while Stark didn't find it funny. The brunette sent a dark glare towards Sail. Clearing his throat, he says the first thing in his mind to get out of this awkward situation he put himself in. So what now, Ichigo-kun? Before the boy could reply, Lily grabbed his hand and started dragging him out, asking him to show her everything he could. About Karakura town. Stark and Sail just follow behind them, trying to not get out from Ichigo's cloaking radius. All of them were unaware of a pair of feline eyes following them. The group has been walking around for 2 hours now. The sun seems to be at its peak, so it was sometime around the afternoon. Mostly, the group stayed around the shopping district of Karakura town. Getting dragged around by Lily, Ichigo was unaware that they were holding hands the entire time. However, before Lily could pull Ichigo again, the boy seems to get rooted to the ground. Ichigo, come on, let's go to that weird shop with the animals. Turning around to see what was wrong, she noticed how Ichigo's eyes focused on a river. Letting go of her hand, Ichigo started walking towards the river. This is where it happened. This is where I die. Shocked by his words, the group didn't move, and because of that, Stark and Sail noticed a sizable amount of Hollow's Ryatsu when they got out from Ichigo's radius. One felt familiar to the brunette. There was also another weird Ryatsu in the air that he had never felt before. Shinigami. Stark turns towards Sail and notices a dark look in the Hollow's eyes. Like pure hate. He couldn't blame him. The last Shinigami he ever saw was the one Ichigo could have almost died while protecting the Guar. Wait, that one familiar Hollow's Ryatsu is from the Guardian. What the hell is he doing here? Shaking his head, Stark and Sail started walking towards Ichigo, Lily already by his side. Ichigo, we need to go. I think the Guardian is here and me. He stopped when he noticed the way the water on the river seemed to move towards the boy. Ichigo kept staring at the river, unaware of how the water was coming towards him. This is where it all happened. He saw the girl by the river on that stormy day. He remembers trying to help, and then came the pain. Why was there pain again? That's because I die. He kept staring at the river before someone brought him out from his thoughts when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw the concerned look on Stark's face. You okay, Ichigo? The redhead turns back to the river. It was painful to be here at this very spot and letting the memories of that day come to him, but he had to let go of it. There was nothing for him to do now. Turning back to Stark, he gave the man a simple nod, not trusting his voice at the moment. Watching how the water stopped moving towards the boy was a relief for the man. That little stunt performance ended up gathering a crowd of people. Hey Ichigo, listen up, I just felt the Guardian from Minos Park here. I don't know why, but he might be in trouble because there's Shinigami here. That brought the boy back. What? Why is he here of all places? Honestly, those things never happen. He's supposed to be at Minos Park protecting the hollow there from Shinig. Wait, you said there's Shinigami here? That's right, Ichigo-kun, and by how I sense things, they seem to be a squad. 3 feel a lot stronger than the rest. Sail was still looking in the direction where he could sense them. Probably somewhere south. No one said anything. They were already expecting to go by how Ichigo kept looking in the same direction as Sail. The redhead turns and looks back at Stark. He couldn't do anything, but he could. Stark releases a sigh once he notices the look on Ichigo. Fine, but listen to me first, Ichigo. This will be very dangerous. Last time there was only one, and I had no restraint on how much damage I could do. However, being here in your hometown, I need to limit myself, okay? Sail and I will distract them while you tell the Guardian to leave. Got it? He didn't want to bring them into danger, but Ichigo will also be a quick getaway from the Shinigami once they save the hollow. Getting a nod from everyone, Stark got a hold of them and Sonido towards the Guardian. Tsubakadai Park. The Guardian was not having a good day. First was the fact that some random Ajuchas attacked the human world. Why attack the human world of all places? There's nothing for them here. Not even a good amount of Reisher to eat. The only good thing about the attack was that they located it in an isolated park. Yeah, no. That doesn't happen. Something told him this was all a setup. Then came the Shinigami. A full squad of them, actually. For fuck's sakes. There were 8 of them. 8 powerful Ajuchas class hollow, and now they are down to 3. They had the winning side for a while, but then he noticed 3 captain class Shinigami, easily noticeable with their white Haori, and when they showed up, everything went downhill for them. He would try to open a Garganta to leave if only he stops getting interrupted. Every time he goes to open one, the crazy captain with an eye patch keeps going at him, screaming at him if he was the strongest then he should fight him. Fuck that. I only came to stop the idiots from getting themselves killed. Looking around, he notices how they were already down another one. Only he and the Hollow who attacked this place are the only two still alive. Damn it. How I wish a miracle happened right about now. He thought back to when Ichigo saved his life. What are the chances of that ever happening again? He made a quick dodge to his left, saving him from having his arm cut off. The only thing you are good at is dodging. The man in front of the Hollow was huge, even by Shinigami standards he was bigger than the other two. He styled his hair into stiff strands, giving it a spiky look and had small bells attached to the tips. The man was wild and aggressive when attacking too. Like he was some beast. You should just finish this off already, Captain Zaraki. The man turns back and scowls at the small, white-haired boy. Shut it. I came here because the old man said these Hollows were too strong for the squad that got sent here. So I'm gonna take my time to get the fight I want. The boy that Zaraki addressed to was Captain Hitsugaya of the 10th Division. He has turquoise eyes and short, spiked white hair. He wears a standard sleeveless captain's haori with a green sash around his shoulders, held together by a round, star-like clip. He uses the sash, found wrapped around his chest, for holding his Zanpakuto-S sheath. Ready to tell the man to hurry when someone with a cold and calm voice spoke from behind him. Just leave that beast alone, Captain Hitsugaya. We're done here, anyway. The white-haired boy turns around to see Captain Kuchiki of the 6th Division. He has slate-gray eyes and long black hair, which he keeps up in an intricate white headpiece. Besides the standard captain uniform, he wears a white scarf and fingerless white teko, which only covers the back of his hands. I'm surprised you even came, Captain Kuchiki. Free time on your hands or just came to make sure Rukia was safe? Captain Hitsugaya asked, and the man said nothing. When the captain commander got a message from the 12th Division about how the Hollows that appeared were too powerful for the squad to handle, he deployed Captain Hitsugaya and Zaraki. They ended up finding Captain Kuchiki, and with the way Zaraki said there was a fun fest in Karakura town, the man came with them. But thinking about it now, Captain Hitsugaya remembers how a certain member of the 13th Division patrols Karakura town, and that member is Rukia Kuchiki. The man's adopted sister. Trying to get the Hollow to fight back and failing, Captain Zaraki was on his last nerves. TCH, I'm done here. If you don't want to fight, I'm just going to cut you in half. He moves in with incredible brute speed, no Shunpa involved. The Guardian, taken by surprise at the quick change of speed, didn't find the time to dodge the blade that was only inches away. A vow made to a redhead came to his mind. Sorry. I fail you, Ichigo-sama. Ready to take the blow, he closes his eyes. Because of that, he didn't notice the small and quick blue Zero that hit the Shinigami's left side, blowing Captain Zaraki away while leaving him inside the smoke. Captain Kuchiki and Hitsugaya were both taken by surprise. They didn't even feel that attack coming, and before they knew it, they felt a powerful Reiatsu on them. They turned towards the direction from where the blue Zero came at and saw a man standing there. Sup? Was all Stark said before he fired a blue Zero from his chest. While Stark was distracting the two captains, Lily and Ichigo went over to where the cloud of smoke was and waited for it to clear before trying to pull the guarding out. Finally, realizing what just happened, the Hollow turned towards Ichigo and his companion. Even with what he's wearing, the Guardian could still recognize the orange hair, pale skin, and hollow-like eyes. Ichigo-sama. Honestly, he wasn't expecting such a miracle like this to even happen. No time to chat, you need to get out of here right now. But there's another Hollow here as W. The Shinigami squad took him down. Sale went to help him, but now he's having trouble fighting so many Shinigami. You need to open a Garganta right now and get out. But what about you, Ichigo-sama? Your friend can't possibly handle 3 captains by himself. Don't worry about it. We have a plan. So go. Just giving the boy a simple nod, he opens up a garganta and walks in. Before closing it, he took one last look at Ichigo. Come find me again in Minos Park when you get out of here, Ichigo-sama. With that last comment, the guardian closed the gateway. Ichigo and Lily let out a sigh of relief before they noticed that Stark was now distracting all 3 captains. Shooting fast and weak zeros while completely keeping his distance. This was all but a distraction to have all the Shinigami's attention on him and ignore them while they got the hollow out from here. Thanks to Ichigo's cloaking ability, the Shinigami couldn't even sense them. However, Captain Kachiki, while not sensing them, saw them. He notices how they were heading towards the black mask hollow. Not even hesitating, he lifts one of his fingers and aims it at the boy's back. If the man in front of him didn't have a hollow hole and mask fragments, he would have arrested them. But seeing how they're nothing but hollows with human features, he didn't think twice before firing a strong Kido. Heido number 4. Byakurai. A concentrated bolt of lighting came from his finger. Stark saw the Kido spell aim and fired at the kids. Before he could use Sonido towards them, the biggest of the 3 captains intercepted him. You're not going anywhere. The eye patch captain brought his sword down with so much speed that Stark had to move back to not get cut. He saw the Kido spell only a few feet behind them. Look out! Both kids turned around and saw the approaching spell soaring towards them. Lily, seeing where it was heading, made her freeze. No. Not Ichigo. Not even thinking about it, she subconsciously uses Sonido and shields Ichigo from the attack, taking the Kido full force on her stomach, barely missing her hollow hole by a few inches. All Ichigo saw for his part was Lily's back, the way the spell went through her, and how she dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. He stops paying attention to his surroundings and falls to his knees in front of Lily, just staring at her back. He didn't listen to how Stark started calling him out again. This time telling him about the small captain was now in front of him. He completely ignored that. All he could focus on was all the blood pooling around Lily. He turns her around, hoping she was at least alive, and to his hope, she was. Hey, why? She tried to send him a smirk but her body really hurt. Oh, the pain is starting to feel numby now. She saw the way Ichigo was about to cry. Why, though? They should be celebrating. Hey, I use Sonido. Yeah. You did. Ichigo saw the way her body seemed to lose color. She was still trying to smile, but he saw the way it hurt her. Why? She didn't need to get hit. She could have pushed him away. It was too close. She couldn't even finish at this point. Her eyes felt heavy. That's not what I meant. Because we're family. She gave him her best smile before passing out from blood loss. Captain Hitsugaya shook his head. They're acting as if they were human, but with the mask and hole, they were the farthest thing from being human. He raised his Zanpakuto, ready to take out the boy. Don't worry, everything will be over soon. Ichigo didn't even listen to the Shinigami. He still kept looking at Lily. He kept telling himself the same thing repeatedly. This wasn't supposed to happen. 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 Ichigo exploded in a storm of white, black, blue, and red racier. Everyone stops. From Stark fighting off Zaraki and Kachiki, Sale not killing the last of the Shinigami and Hitsugaya, who got a distance away from the explosion. It was 2 years ago when Stark felt this kind of power, the one that overwhelmed his own completely. This time, however, it felt more powerful with him being so close to Ichigo. All the colorful racier swirling the boy would have probably left him awed if it wasn't for the amount of rage emotion coming from it. He took a quick look around him and noticed the way everyone else seemed rooted to their spot. He saw the look of shock on Captain Kachiki's and Hitsugaya's face, and the deranged smile from Captain Zaraki. He took a quick look over at Sale and noticed how the Hollow got rid of his remaining opponents, who got easily distracted by Ichigo's power. Remembering the situation he was in, the man was ready to blow Captain Zaraki away when a roar came out from the Raisher engulfed Ichigo. Turning back toward the redhead, Stark spotted two golden dots glowing from the center of the powerful storm. He also notices the tall outline of a man, and before he knew it, all the colorful Raisher got absorbed into the man. After a few seconds and with another roar that dispersed all the Raisher, he finally saw the thing that was now standing where Ichigo stood. It has long, orange straight hair as the only sign that told Stark how the thing in front of him was hopefully Ichigo. It was actually tall, maybe a good few inches taller than him. He notices black markings stretching across his chest and shoulders, all while connected to his hollow hole. He also took note of the claws on his fingertips and toes. Small, furry red tufts, two starting from his collarbone and stretching around his neck, and one each on his wrists, ankles and white skin. Another sign that was telling him how the thing in front of him was Ichigo. However, he notices the addition of blue flame-like markings that spread across his chest. Stark squints his eyes when he notices how the markings seem to move in a lazy fire-like flow, and the remains of a tattered black cloak cover his lower body. Then came the mask. Ichigo never had a mask, and even if he did, Stark would never guess how demonic it would look like. The mask was colored black, and it covers Ichigo's entire head. It has 4 blue spike-shaped marks, 2 of them stopping by the forehead and the other 2 stretching past the eyes and teeth, going past his chin and joining with the marks on his chest. There are small marks resembling a heart, but with the top and bottom open, extending from the inner corners of his eyes. The mask features 2 long, forward-pointing horns, with blue stripes extending from their center towards the tips. Yeah, Ichigo was looking demonic. The hollowified Ichigo started looking around him, taking in everything it saw before its eyes lock on to Captain Kachiki. Golden and gray eyes just kept staring at each other, then a wicked grin spread across Ichigo's sharp teeth. Before he could do anything, there was the sense of a strike on his right side shoulder. Turning towards the hit on his shoulder, he notices his blue flame stopping a sword. Following the blade, his grin grew more when he saw the complete shock look of Captain Hitsugaya. When the turquoise-eyed captain saw the thing that emerged from the powerful storm, it left him speechless with its appearance. That thing was easily the most unholy-looking hollow ever. After getting out from his stun moment, he didn't even think for a second before he shunpa next to the hollowified child and brought his blade down on its shoulder. Then came his shock when he noticed how fast the blue flame markings ran across his chest and stopped at his shoulder, completely blocking his sword. It was like his blade was trying to cut down a diamond. The demonic hollow backhanded the young captain. He already had his eyes set on someone. Ready to attack Captain Kachiki, he stops at the sound of light groans underneath him. He looks down and sees the body of Lily. The power that came from his transformation was probably hurting her, if not straight up killing her. Now there was something about this scene that was scratching the back of his head. This wasn't right. The girl was missing the smile that has been his son in the dark world of Hueco Mundo. However, right now she looks dead, and there was a painful look on her face instead, as if she was in deep agony. Then there was all the surrounding blood that was coming out from the hole in her stomach. How did that thing happen again? With a quick realization, he remembers why he was staring at the man with the headpiece. He snaps his head up to Captain Kachiki, ready to charge at him when the captain with the eye patch charged at him from his left side. All he heard from the man was a crazy battle cry and saw the swing of his blade to his neck. Before the blade even reached his neck, he stopped it with 2 of his fingers that were both coated with the blue flame markings. He turns towards the man and notices the bloodthirsty smile on him. Captain Zaraki has been smiling like a madman when he felt the power radiating from the newcomer. He wasn't even paying attention before, only having his eyes set on the strong brunette before a power that brought a wicked smile to his face covered the area. Sure, the brunette felt strong, hell, he will go far as saying he actually felt powerful, but the man was just shooting and dodging, and the Ceros he was shooting felt nothing but weak. Then he felt this power, it was nothing compared to the brunette, and when the storm show ended and the wicked-looking hollow came out from it, his smile grew, and it just kept on growing when he saw how easily the hollow flicked away Captain Hitsugaya. He had to see for himself, and he was damn glad the hollow wasn't weak when it stopped his attack. Ha! This is the thing I came here, Luki. He couldn't even finish his sentence because the hollow Ichigo threw him in the same direction Captain Hitsugaya was standing back up from. The turquoise-eyed captain couldn't even dodge with the speed the hollow threw Captain Zaraki at him and sent both further away. Hollow Ichigo was ready to charge towards Captain Kuchiki when he stopped and let out a battle cry of his own. Rarea. Then the other two captains landed by Byakuya's side and were ready to take action. When the screaming stopped, an intense silence covered the area. Captain Hitsugaya reached for his earpiece that the 12th Division gave him, ready to ask them to have their limiter removed and put up a barrier around the park. Before he could reach for his earpiece, the voice of 12th Division 3rd Seat Akon was already talking to him. Captain Hitsugaya, what the hell is happening over there? That was a shocker for the young captain. The man always appears as the calm type, but right now he sounded surprised. Well, he better reply to the man to have their limiter removed. When captains and lieutenants travel to the human world, they have a seal placed on their powers that takes the form of the insignia that represents their division. The seal can contain up to 80% of their power. If an emergency breaks out, they must ask them permission first before they're removed. The reason for such a seal is for their power to not accidentally influence any spiritually aware humans. An unexpected event occurred, and now we have a problem on our hands. A problem. It's more than just a problem, Captain Hitsugaya. Do you know how fast I had to break the protocol? Now he's confused. I'm sorry, what do you mean by break protocol? He had a sinking feeling in his stomach about what the man meant. Captain Hitsugaya, an unknown and powerful Ryuryoku, appeared on our radar not so long ago. Hell, the thing that showed up was easily captain class and even surpassed you guys. Easily captain class and surpasses them? Wait. We know that the hollow is surpassing us. We still have our limiter on us, we need permission to remove them. Captain Hitsugaya's eyes were still on the hollow-fied child. The thing hasn't moved an inch at all after that last roar. He took a quick peek at Captain Zaraki and Kuchiki. He already told the battle-hungry captain to not try anything until he got permission to have their limiter removed, and Kuchiki still had a cold, calculated look on his face, but the man seems to be on his toes when the hollow finally attacks. Captain Hitsugaya. When that thing appeared, it overpowered you guys. I had to break the protocol and had your limiter removed on my orders. Whatever you guys are going up against is easily surpassing everyone in Ryuryoku. Hell, that thing might be far stronger than Captain Zaraki without the eye patch. The white-haired boy's eyes wide with shock. There's no way this thing is that strong. He opens up his Shinigami uniform and notices how there wasn't a seal in the shape of the 10th Division insignia, a daffodil, on his chest. No way. Akon was telling him the truth. They removed his limiter and he still couldn't cut through the hollow skin. But I should have felt the change in my power when they did it. Captain Kuchiki was on high alert. There was no doubt in his mind that the boy was targeting him after he shot at the other hollow. He took a quick look at the girl that was lying on the ground. There was a small sign telling him that the girl was still alive with how her chest barely was rising and falling. His eyes went back to the demonic hollow. He already saw how Captain Hitsugaya was asking for permission to remove their limiter. With the power alone that this hollow has shown, they will remove it any minute now. He just needs to feel the change in his power for them to battle this thing. Yes, even if he has to work with that beast of a man, Kenpachi. With his eyes still locked on to the hollow. He was ready to ask the white-haired captain if they had authorization when he noticed how the boy opened up his Shinigami robes and went shell-shock. What is the matter, Captain Hitsugaya? Do we have the authorization to remove our limiters? His voice sounded easy and emotionless, but yet curious to know what put the boy in such a shock state. They had removed our limiters for a while now, Captain Kuchiki. The turquoise-eyed captain stated. Still looking at the hollow, Captain Kuchiki's gray eyes slightly widened. He would have checked on himself, but with how Toshiro was still shocked already told him enough. Kenpachi Zaraki was grinning like a psychopath. He had a scowl on his face when the brat told him to wait on having their limiter removed before doing anything stupid. He complained about it, but then when he heard him tell pretty boy Byakuya the good news, well, that just brought a smile to his face. That means he could already attack the hollow. Without even looking at the other two captains, he charges towards the hollow, this time putting a good amount of strength behind his swing. Aiming for the hollow's side, expecting to cut him in half when the demonic hollow met his swing with a blue flame blade connected to its right arm, almost as if it was a part of him. He noticed the lack of strange blue markings on his chest, but he mentally shrugged it off. He started pumping more Ryatsu to his attacks. His smile grew larger in proportion when he noticed how the hollow wasn't pushed back and was mirroring a crazy smile much like his own. Before Kenpachi could introduce himself, they both heard a gasp. The hollow Fidichigo eyes widened. He releases another roar and pushes back Captain Zaraki, much to the glee of the crazy battle captain since the hollow was actually strong enough to push him back and have him crash into a tree. The hollow Fidichigo looks back towards the lime-haired girl. She was getting hurt just by being near him and all because of Kuchiki's fault. He couldn't do anything to save her and now here he was hurting her. He let out another scream, ready to charge at Captain Kuchiki. Captain Kuchiki and Hitsugaya ready themselves up. The hollow would finally make his move when they notice how its eyes seem to lose focus for a few seconds before leaving the area again in intense silence. Then it disappears from their view but could still feel its power. They shunpa away from their spots just in time before the hollow Fidichigo made a wide swing with the blue flame sword. With just the power behind the attack, Captain Hitsugaya and Kuchiki notice how easily it uprooted and blew away the trees behind their previous spots. A grimace look came to both their faces. Looks like we have no choice but to use Shirkai, stated the turquoise-eyes captain. Only getting a nod from the man, they both got ready to release their Zanpakuto when the hollow Fidichigo sonidoed right in front of Kuchiki, with his blue blade already slashing down on him. With quick reflexes, Byakuya brought his blade up and blocked the attack, however with the force the attack came down on him, he'd been brought down to one of his knees quickly. How can it still overpower me without my limiter? He started pumping more Ryatsu, but to his shock, the hollow was still pushing him down. Salvation came to him in the form of a battle-loving captain. Don't you dare forget about me. With an even more powerful attack, Captain Zaraki threw the hollow Fidichigo away. Releasing a sigh of relief, Byakuya stood up. He should probably thank the crazy beast for saving him. However, before he could say anything, Kenpachi made something clear first. Oi, you two stay out of this. He wasn't even looking at Byakuya or Toshiro, he was just grinning like a madman at the direction he sent the hollow at. Forgetting about thanking him, Byakuya was ready to scowl at him when the roar of the hollow reached the group of Shinigami. With only just a second after the scream ended, both Captain Hitsugaya and Kuchiki released their Shirkai. Scatter, Senbenzakura. Sit upon the frozen heavens, Hyarinmaru. Captain Kuchiki's blade separated into 1,000 tiny, slender blade fragments, taking in a coloration that resembles cherry blossom petals, which fly away from the hilt, leaving only the sword's handle in Byakuya's hand. While Captain Hitsugaya blade extends slightly in length and gains a crescent-shaped blade attached to its hilt by a long metal chain. Coming back to the Shinigami with a Sonido with no signs of injuries on him since the blue flame markings once again moved towards the strike zone. However, before Captain Hitsugaya spoke about the lack of the blue blade, Captain Zaraki was already after the hollow like a rabid dog. With enhanced speed, the battle-hungry captain closes the distance between them, blade ready to strike down on the hollow when he notices the return of the blue blade countering his attack. The hollow fight Ichigo easily blocked the blade and swung his own to the man's right side. Ready to cut the man across his chest, the blue blade disappears into his arm and turns to markings and runs behind his back, which blocks Captain Hitsugaya's sneak attack. When the hollow attacked Captain Kuchiki, Toshiro's sharp eyes noticed the quick moment in how the blade disappeared to protect him from Captain Zaraki's attack. Then when the hollow came back with no blade but with the blue flame markings on his body again, he had a small idea on how those blue flames work. He was glad it proved him right. So that's how those markings work. It can either become an instant shield on your body, making it impossible to cut you but can't stand impact damage, or it can become a blade that easily becomes a powerful tool. Also, it looks like you have no control over the switch. The only reply he got was a roar. The hollow fight Ichigo was ready to backhand the small captain again when it got hit by Kenpachi, throwing him away. Zaraki turns to the turquoise eyes boy with a scowl on his face. "What the hell do you think you're doing? I said to stay out of this. This is the battle I came for." Before Toshiro could reply, he heard a sonido from behind him. Turning around quickly, he brought his blade up to his neck, just in time to stop the hollow's sword from beheading him. With Captain Hitsugaya locked on with the hollow, Byakuya swung his sword's handle and with control, he had his thousands blade fragments charge at Ichigo's left side. Watching the attack coming, Toshiro made sure to still have his blade lock on with the hollow so that in the last second he can dodge, and hopefully the blue flame markings would be too slow to protect his left side. With the attack just a few inches away from them, the child Captain Shuunpa to a safe distance and watch how 1,000 blades could hit the hollow. He noted the 3 seconds the blue flame markings switch between sword and shield. Still, the hollow took some damage. Before Captain Kuchiki could swing his handle again, the hollow fight Ichigo released a powerful shock wave of spiritual pressure, pushing his blades away. Instead of going for another attack, Byakuya brought them back, creating a defensive barrier. When the shock wave ended, Captain Hitsugaya and Byakuya noticed the deep cuts on the hollow's body that the blue flame markings couldn't protect. However, much to their surprise, the wounds started healing instantly. "Damn it!" Toshiro curse. With the blue markings moving around his body to protect him, I thought that was his only form of ability, but now we have instant regeneration. That just means we need to hit a vital area. Something that he can't regenerate fast enough or can't at all. Byakuya replied. They both watched the hollow fight off Kenpachi's wild assaults, taking notes on how the blue flame markings were moving around between both the arms and chest. Whatever attack seemed to land on the hollow healed instantly. The only good thing about this thing is how reckless is attacking us, like it has no experience on what he's doing, there's no form in his swings and stance. Also the only sign of protection comes from the blue flame's markings, but even then it doesn't move fast enough to protect everything, the turquoise-eyed captain announced. Still watching and calculating the demonic hollow, Captain Kuchiki also informed the young captain of what he knew. There is barely any actual power behind the hollow's attacks. While his Ryuryoku is just monstrous and more powerful than ours. It can't seem to put any form of Ryatsu behind his swings. Captain Hitsugaya thought about what he said. When he crossed blades with the hollow fight child, the only reason their blades stayed locked on was because the boy's weapon is composed of those strange markings, making them impossible to cut down. There's no Ryatsu behind his swing, so it's just supernatural strength like Captain Zaraki, then, no Ryatsu whatsoever. A grimace reached his face when the memory on how easily those power swings uprooted and threw trees away came to his mind. It brought both captains out from their thoughts when the hollow started gathering spiritual energy to his sword. With a roar, the hollow fight Ichigo then strikes down at the ground, creating an overflowing wave of red spiritual energy, which surges forward towards Kenpachi. Before the attack could reach him, however, Captain Zaraki releases a powerful shock wave of spiritual pressure, much like the one Ichigo uses, and dispersed the hollow's attack. Ha! Now we're fucking talking. With a battle cry from both fighters, they meet up again, clashing their blades. However, this time Captain Zaraki overpower the hollow. Watching the way the hollow flew back and Kenpachi following behind, it broke both of them from their stun moment. The hollow used Ryatsu behind an attack, stated the gray-eyed captain. Captain Hitsugaya nodded. That means this thing is just barely learning how to use it. We need to kill it fast. If it keeps learning and starts putting power behind his attacks, it'll force us to use our Bankai. While he knew a barrier was up, he doesn't know if it's powerful enough to hold back 2 Captains Bankai and 1 Kenpachi. Just getting a nod from Captain Kuchiki, they both Shunpa after the hollow. Completely forgetting about both Stark and Sail. The pair had moved in close to grab Lily away from all the fighting, and once they got her away, they were on the sidelines, watching the hollow fight Ichigo fight off 3 Shinigami captains. Stark would have tried to help Ichigo, but he's more worried about Lily at the moment. While Stark worried about his little sister, Sail has been keeping a watch in Ichigo's current fight. The small captain made ice dragons from his sword and began throwing them all over the redhead. Sail noticed how the transformed Ichigo seems to be able to destroy them with just an explosion of his shockwave. However, every time he does that, Ichigo then gets hit from his back with the cherry blossom petals. When he fends off those attacks, Captain Zaraki comes in for a strike, but then those blue flames markings switch to the blue blade, and then when his blade reappears, the other 2 Shinigami captains go back into taking advantage of Ichigo not having any form of protection on him. Every time they seem to add more Ryatsu behind their attacks. Sure, the blades switch back to those blue flame markings, but even then they don't move fast enough to protect every part of his body from 3 different people. Sail wanted to help Ichigo out, but he had no chance against Captain-class Shinigami. He barely could kill off the last of the Shinigami squad, and he only got them when Ichigo's transformation distracted them. However, the 3 captains seem to gain a power boost and they are way out of his league, but not for Stark. The male Arrancar could take at least 1 captain away from Ichigo, turning towards the man. He saw the look of sorrow on his face. Lily should be fine as long as they can go back to Hueco Mundo and let her body heal naturally with all the erasure. But the chance of that happening is small since the 3 Shinigami will most likely not give them enough time to open up a Garganta. He turns back towards Ichigo and notices how the boy was now having more trouble with the captains. If we do nothing, we're all going to die. Stark-san, you need to go over there and help Ichigo out. This wouldn't have happened if we didn't come here. Oh God, don't tell me he's regretting this right now. Sail needed to think of something quick. Taking another peek at Ichigo, he notices how the boy is having more trouble now. He cannot handle them for long now. He needed Stark to do something, and then it came to him a way to get the man to help. Ichigo-kun could save her. That got the brunette's attention. Once Stark's blue-gray eyes were on him, he continued. Ichigo-kun fixed my mask, something no one can ever fix again, but he did. So he can just as well save her. Stark went back to looking down at Lily. Her breathing seems better now, but he could feel her dying slowly. Shaking his head, he turned back towards Ichigo. The Hollow Fight kid was having trouble with all 3 captains. He's powerful, but he doesn't know how to fight at all, and right now he's not listening to his instincts, he's fighting in a blind rage. Shaking his head, Stark stood up, a serious look on his face. He will go help Ichigo and get everyone out of here. Watch over her, Sail. Getting a nod from the hollow, he was ready to Sonido and get rid of Captain Kuchiki when once again Ichigo exploded in a shower of erasure. However, this time it felt different. I can't sense him anymore. Damn it. Is he reverting to his normal self? When the power show ended, everyone went tense when there was no child or hollow in the area. Before Kenpachi could say anything, he felt a pain through his chest. Looking down, he saw the still hollow-fied Ichigo. However, something felt wrong. Before Kenpachi could take a swing at the wicked hollow, he noticed how hollow-fied Ichigo was already holding the blade in front of him, and then he spoke 2 words. Getsuga Tensho. The edge of the blue sword gained a dark red color and then it released a fast, highly condensed spiritual energy/attack. Completely taken by surprises, Kenpachi only had a second to release a shock wave to battle off the attack, but the shock wave he released wasn't strong because he couldn't sense any actual strength behind Ichigo's attack, and that was a mistake he noticed too late. Ichigo's attack went right through his shield and threw him back. Captain Hitsugaya and Kachiki got taken back by surprises again. They were having the upper hand, even went as far and got Captain Zaraki to work with them. Although the man was protesting about it, they convinced him anyway. But then the hollow exploded in another powerful storm and now they can't sense him. Before they could take action, the hollowified Ichigo disappeared and their guard went up, ready to expect any form of attack. However, instead of attacking any of the Shinigami, the redhead appears in front of Stark. Stark and Sale noticed the way his left arm started gathering Rapier, blue sword no longer present before they could ask what he was doing. Ichigo kneels down to Lily and brings his Rapier cover hand over Lily's face. Two things happened that Stark took notice of. The first was the addition of her hollow helmet turning black and the second was the way their soul connection seemed to cut off. Worried about what that could mean, he turned towards the kneeling hollow, he says. "What did you do? I can't sense our connection anymore." "Sheesh man, don't worry about it. Do you know how fucking annoying will be if the little strawberry's girlfriend dies and all that damn negativity storm in on himself?" That took both Sale and Stark by surprise. They could still hear Ichigo's voice, but there was a mixture of someone else's voices. Before they could ask who he was, they heard him speak again. "No time to talk, I only have enough time to control this body for a good 15 minutes. Don't worry about her. I saved her and did a little bit of plus something else. Oh, and Ichigo is fine too. He let me take over." Flashback. Ichigo's inner world during his transformation. White. That was the only color Ichigo could see until his eyes finally adjusted. A bright night setting replaced the white void. The redhead started looking around him. This was new to him. Where was he? The last thing he remembers was Lily. Remembering the situation he was in, the redhead started looking around him, trying to find anyone. All he saw, however, was white sand and a stupid lake. Sea. River. Honestly, where was he? Taking a quick look at the night sky, he notices all the dazzling stars and the tiny moon. He squinted his eyes, making sure that he wasn't seeing things. "You look stupid doing that. What the hell are you even looking at?" Startled by the voice, Ichigo turns around and sees a man lying on the white sand. The man had long black hair which he would guess reaches his waist. Bluish-gray, bandage-like carapace forms around his tan torso, right arm, neck, and over the nose and mouth in mask fashion. The remains of a tattered black cloak cover his lower body, and then there were his eyes. He only has seen those eye colors on one person and that was himself. The yellow iris and the black scara were staring at his own yellow and black eyes. The man was staring at him with a familiar lazy expression. They only kept eye contact for 5 seconds before the man went back to looking at the night sky. "What is it? Is it the stars? I mean they look pretty but after seeing them for so long it just gets meh." The man finishes his sentence with a lazy shrug. "Sheesh, this guy reminds me of Stark." Ichigo's eyes shot open. "What am I doing? Lily is dying and I'm here on this beach with some weirdo." Before he could ask the man anything, he saw him stand up and started walking along the water. Trying to not lose the only person around here, he ran to the front of the man. "Mister, do you know where I'm at?" Stopping in front of him, Ichigo noted how towering the man was to him. This guy is even taller than Stark. All he saw from the man was how his cover-up mouth seemed to move. "I'm sorry, what?" "Just told you my name." "Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't hear it." Again, Ichigo saw the bandages move, but there was no noise from him. Shaking his head, the redhead told him how he still couldn't hear it. That only got an exaggerated sigh from him. Damn it, I just knew this would happen with me fusing with that stupid bastard. Again, the man releases another sigh. Well, it should have been no surprise, but I was hoping for things to be different with all the work I did, he said while scratching the back of his head. For Ichigo's part, he watched as the man went around him and kept on walking, muttering about trying a different way of making things work. Oh man, this guy really is a weirdo. Ichigo shook his head and followed the man. Before he could ask how he could get back to Lily, the man turns his head back, looking at the redhead before saying one word. Luna. Excuse me. Since you can't seem to hear that other name, you can just call me by the old name that they knew me for. The now name Luna told Ichigo. Finally, having a name for the man, the redhead asked him how he could go back. Hey Luna-san, not to be rude Oren. So how's Hueco Mundo, anyway? Also, it seems like you're doing fine seeing how you're not dead and all. Well great, the man just changed the topic, but there was something about what he said that got Ichigo confused. It's good, you know. Wait a minute. How do you know what Hueco Mundo is and what you mean by me not being dead? When they both stopped walking, Ichigo started looking around his new surroundings. While they were still walking on the white sand, he now notices the addition of a few palm trees. The body of water was still by them. How do I know about Hueco Mundo? I guess you could say I came from there. That got Ichigo's attention. How was he from Hueco Mundo? He had no mask or hole. Before he could voice his thoughts, he noticed the way Luna started pulling down the bandage that covered half his face. Once he pulled them down to his neck, Ichigo saw the remnants of his hollow mask. What's left of his mask looked like the bottom half of a human skull that covers his nose, mouth, and his cheeks. The one thing he noticed about the mask was the black coloration. So yeah, this answers your first question, and for the second one, let's say I may have left you all alone when you ended up there and maybe I wasn't expecting for you to live this long. Strange enough though, his mask seems to move with his mouth. Well shit, this was an awkward situation now. Just letting the bandage loose around his neck, Luna started walking off again. Getting out from his stunned moment, Ichigo started running back to the man and started walking by his side. Hey, wait a moment. What do you mean by not expecting me to live long? Sheesh, well, hey, look at the bright side. You aren't dead, which means the 2 Ryuryoku that I felt when I left you didn't kill you or anything. While he couldn't see the grin on his face because the mask covers it up, Ichigo could see the way his eyes seemed to reflect the mood the man was in. Wait. Are you talking about Lillian? Again, his eyes shot wide. That's right, I need to go help them. Stopping in front of the man, he locks his yellow eyes with Luna's eyes. Luna-san. Please, you need to help me get back to my friends. They're in trouble. We tried to save an old friend, but things went wrong fast and... Ichigo couldn't remember much after that. What was it that happened? He remembers the way Lily took an attack meant for him, but after that, he just doesn't remember. Ah yeah, about that, you probably force your body to take action, buddy. Hell, you're probably running wild out there, running in autopilot or something. Luna carelessly shrugs. Honestly, you would have been just fine, really. I don't know why she did something that stupid. That seems to be the wrong way to put that last statement in because Luna could start feeling rage radiating from the boy. It wasn't stupid. She saved me. Ichigo screams back at Luna, not noticing the way his inner world faded away. While Luna looks like he didn't care about how the world was fading, there was a different reaction in his mind. Shit, he's losing concentration. Thinking fast, Luna clarifies what he meant. I didn't mean to make it sound like she did something stupid or try to badmouth her. The man lifted his hand and pointed at the redhead's white skin. As long as your body has that, most Racier base attacks won't be able to damage you. Calming down and the world coming back to a focus, Ichigo looks down to his white skin, the redhead just lifts an eyebrow in confusion. Completely not understand anything about what the man meant. What's so special about my skin? Raising his head at Luna, he notices the deadpan look the man was giving him. Yeah, no. That's not skin at all, kid. When he said that, Ichigo started freaking out while yelling, "What is it then?" Luna would have found the redhead's reaction funny, but there was something else going on in his mind. Has the boy never been in a situation for him to notice the Kappa Zero? While Luna has been deep inside Ichigo's soul resting and gaining strength, he not so long ago manifested himself into this current form. He actually only got to help the boy twice before, and that seems to be the only connection they ever had. He also noted how way different he looks from his original form, most likely from him stealing some amount of power from the boy's Shinigami and Quincy's powers. He also notices how he couldn't see outside Ichigo's inner world. That's not true, those palm trees that just sprout here carry some memories inside here. So I had seen outside this world, but those are just a few and most really are memories of Lily and Stark. While not knowing anything about himself, at least the few memories of Ichigo seem to fill in some spots. The most recent palm tree memory has been the one with the girl getting hit. Still watching the kid freaking out, Luna decided that this was about a good time to bring something up. He's been here for a long time now, either his body hasn't killed off the Shinigami or because of the inexperience of him never fighting, his body doesn't know what to do besides fight in a blind rage. When Ichigo went through his transformation, Luna could see outside the boy's inner world. He just needs to think of a way for the kid to let him take over. Ichigo finally stopped freaking out and was looking at Luna with teary eyes. "Please, you have to help me go back. I need to help Lily." He wanted to cry, but he wouldn't do it in front of this man. For Luna, that seems to be what he wanted to hear. "Okay, I know how to make this work now." He kept watching how the boy just wanted to break down and cry but was holding on to those tears. "You're a sturdy child. But you need to get stronger. Sorry if what I might say sounds cruel to you. Man, you're just a joke, huh, Strawberry?" With tears gathering in his eyes, Ichigo replies with a soft voice. "My name doesn't mean Strawberry. It means he who protects." "Yeah, well shit, guess what, kid? Done a little of that, haven't you? You have never once been in a fight yourself to protect anyone. So let me ask you this. What are you going to do once you go back to your friends, eh? You're just going to die." He waited for the kid to say anything. He notices again the way some tears seem to break through him. He's right. That was all Ichigo had to say to himself. He could probably mention how he protected the guardian at Minos Park, but still, it just wasn't enough for him. He fell to his knees and looked down to hide his tears from the man. The world around him is fading again. However, before the last of his inner world vanishes, Ichigo hears Luna again. "You can't do anything, Ichigo." "But I can." The redhead looks back up to the man who was now kneeling in front of him with an outstretched hand. "What do you mean?" Ichigo started wiping away the tears with his gray scarf. "If you let me take over your body, I can help them all out. Stark, Sail, and your little girlfriend, too." He put in a bit of humor in his voice. "The world is no longer fading. She's not my girlfriend, she's my friend." Finishing wiping his face, Ichigo sends him a scowl. Luna softly laughs. Looks like his teasing worked with the way a light blush spread across the boy's cheeks. "Heh, whatever you say." Ichigo kept staring at Luna's outstretched hand. Can he even trust him? What if all he said was just a lie? "You promise to help them? Don't worry about it, kid. You can trust me." It was naive to trust someone with their words, but he didn't have much to work with. Ichigo grabbed the man's hand. World coming back to focus. "So how do I let you help them?" "Don't worry about that part, just relax and let me do all the work, got it? I'll get rid of those Shinigami." The redhead almost missed the way he finished his sentence. It sounded way too dark, almost as if it was pure hatred he has towards the Shinigami, a familiar feeling Ichigo felt before. Those are yours. Luna didn't even need to have him finish in what he meant. He had a feeling what it was, so not trying to beat around the bush, he just told him. Yeah, those are mine. I have a rough history with them. Now understanding where those hateful feelings for the Shinigami came from, Ichigo decided to at least make something clear. Can you please not kill them? He saw how the man released a sigh. So he clears it up more. I don't want them to see me act like some kind of monster if you did something like that. Luna understood now what the boy meant. There was a memory about Lily and how she helped Ichigo accept his life as a hollow. The reason you don't want them to see you act like one is because you're trying to save the last bit of your humanity you still have left through their eyes. Well, if he wants to help the boy. All right kid, I'll make sure to not kill them. But I will however make sure of leaving the pretty boy in a mess, deal? He finishes with a grin on his face. Because of his mask, no one can see it, but Ichigo felt like he could understand the man's mood. The boy returns a grin of his own before he relaxes a bit. His eyelids finally falling down. There you go now, kid. Just relax, okay? I got this. Ichigo listens to what the man was telling him. However, when he fell unconscious, he heard one word come to him, no, not a word. Is his name. Before falling unconscious, Ichigo thanked the man. Thank you. Zangetsu. Luna, or Zangetsu, kept staring at the boy as he finally went to dreamland. So what the boy just heard is now his new name when he mixed himself with Ichigo's Shinigami power. He turns towards the middle of the lake where the boy's actual powers rest. Man, this kind of feels familiar, huh, kid? Dot. Yup. Dot. Ha. Even giving me the silent treatment like before. Zangetsu releases a sigh. Sheesh, lucky he just settled down by only looking at my mask. How would he have taken it if he knew how I don't have a hollow hole? With that final saying, Zangetsu took over, 2 promises made to the redhead. Rest up and let me handle this, Ichigo. End of flashback. Zangetsu popped his neck. You guys probably want to get some distance away from here now. All he got was a nod from both Stark and Sale. Stark kneels next to Lily and picks her up. Take care of Ichigo's body. He felt weird saying that, but he'll trust this man's word. Great, more headaches will come after this ordeal. With that last thought, Stark put one hand on Sale and Sonido. So no killing Buud, I can sure as hell leave some scars. A wicked grin spread across his mask and Sonido towards Captain Hitsugaya and Kuchiki. Hearing a Sonido, both captains tense. Up. Both their Shurikai up in a defensive form. Kuchiki has his Senbonzakura's blades circling around him while Toshiro gathers some Ryatsu on his Hyarinmaru, reading himself at creating a wall of ice to protect himself. Instead of an attack, they both notice how the hollow reappeared at the same spot from where he sent Kenpachi flying away from his last attack. However, something sticks out from the hollow now, and that's the way those flame markings on his chest seem to have spread out more. Zangetsu was stretching himself with some quick warm-ups. All right now. We're gonna do this for real, so you guys probably wanna use your Bankai or something, cause trust me, your asses are mine. He looks down and notices the markings. Ha. Never had this before. Must be from that other guy. Boy, am I lucky I'm not dead right now. With that being said, he Sonido towards Captain Kuchiki first, the blue blade on his right arm. Byakuya was taken by surprise. The hollow-fied child was fast before, but he could still see him, however, now he barely even saw the hollow. Zangetsu reappears right in front of him, its right arm raised high and a familiar dark red color on the blue blade. Remembering what that attack can do, he brought all of his Senbonzakura's blades in front of him to create a shield. Bringing down the blade, Zangetsu calls out his attack. Getsuga Tensho. Kuchiki's eyes widened when the attack went right through his shuriken. He was sure the shield would protect him, he didn't sense any strong Ryatsu behind the hollow's attack. When the attack connected, it sent him flying back. It completely took Hitsugaya off guard. The speed and power that the hollow was showing made no sense. How the hell can he move so fast and have so much power when I can't sense any of his Ryatsu? The sound of a sonido from behind brought him back to reality. Turning around quickly, his sword started gathering the surrounding moisture, Ryujin Hyohiki. Swinging down his blade, he froze the water and created a wall of ice. However, instead of the flying slash attack that he was expecting, he noticed how the hollow was pointing two of his fingers at him. Toshiro notices how a dark red ball gathered on his fingers. Zero. The attack broke through his wall of ice and completely engulfed Captain Hitsugaya. Zangetsu just looks down on the white-haired boy. He was still breathing and was still awake, the boy was standing back up again. This kid is tough, but I'm not trying to kill them. He looks over the direction he threw Byakuya, except for him. But since I can't kill him, I can sure as hell leave him with some scars or better yet. Getting a nice idea of what he would do to Captain Kuchiki, he brought his left arm up, which was already holding on to another blue blade, and blocked Zaraki's left diagonal slash. Even with the huge X-shaped gashes on his chest, Zaraki's face still was wearing a bloodthirsty smile. Now this is more fucking like it. Pushing each other far apart, the eye patch man finally introduced himself. Before we go back to killing each other, it is only fair for you to know the name of the man who sends you to hell. A wicked grin spread across his face. The name is Kenpachi Zaraki, captain of the 11th Division. A wicked grin spread across Zangetsu's mask. Ha! You're one cocky bastard if you think you could kill me. The name's Zangetsu. With that declaration made, both fighters disappear and reappear again with Zangetsu only using one of the blue blades to block Zaraki's blade while the other one was already up again, turning dark red. Seeing that color again, Zaraki backed off and gathered yellow spiritual energy to his sword, getting himself ready to release a strong energy wave to battle out the hollow's attack. Getsuga Tensho. Seeing the dark red attack coming at him, Kenpachi strikes the ground and releases his shockwave. Yellow and dark red met and exploded, covering the entire area in smoke. Standing back up with burn marks covering Captain Hitsugaya's arms and his Captain Hayori left ruined. The sound of metal clashing brought him back to an alert. He notices how the hollow only watched him trying to stand up. Didn't even want to kill me off. The sound of a shunpa to his back got his attention, turning his head. He saw Captain Kuchiki with a giant gash on his chest. Glad that wasn't me. For the first time, Toshiro saw a painful look across Byakuya's face instead of the usual emotionless mask he wears. Before he could ask the man if he was okay, he heard his earpiece again. Captain Hitsugaya, the hollow's neutralized. Akon's voice sounded a bit confused. No. The hollow went through another power-up or something. We can't sense him. Well, you. Before Akon could finish, he heard the voice of the man's captain. Oi, Captain Hitsugaya, how is it that 3 Shinigami captains are having so many problems with a lousy hollow, Well crap. The hollow turned out to be a bigger problem than we expected. I should have expected that foolish idiot Kenpachi to make the fight longer than. Captain Kuratsuchi stopped and started doing what sounded to be typing. Well, isn't that interesting? Before Captain Hitsugaya could ask what he meant, Kuratsuchi opened his mouth again. Well, Captain Hitsugaya, I powered up those barriers so that all of you fools could unleash your Bankai. Now make sure to not leave my new specimen in tiny pieces now. That was all he heard before the earpiece seemed to lose connection. Well, the good news now is that they can use Bankai and not worry about breaking the barrier. Toshiro turns towards Byakuya, whose painful expression got replaced with his usual stony mask. Can you still fight, Captain Kuchiki? He needs to be sure the man can actually still stand up and not want him to fall over any moment. I'm fine, Captain Hitsugaya. Let's finish this monster off. The noble wore his stony mask, but his voice sounded like it was too painful for him to talk. Right. With nothing being said, both captains released their Bankai. Bankai, Daiguren Hyarinmaru. Hitsugaya's Bankai caused ice to flow from Hyarinmaru onto Hitsugaya, starting at his right arm, which ice forms onto in the shape of a dragon's head around his sword hand, encasing the sword up to the hilt, which also changes from the shape of a 4-pointed star to that of an 8-pointed star. The ice continues forming up over his shoulders, with 2 large wings sprouting from his back and a long tail. The ice forms down his left arm and encases his hand, which ends in a claw. Hitsugaya's feet got encased in ice in a similar manner to his left hand, as they also ended in claws. The addition of 3 flowers of ice floating behind him, each comprising 4 purple petals shaped like diamonds. Dropping his sword down, Byakuya activated his Bankai. Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. The sword phases into the ground, as though it were a pool of water. Energy ripples expand out, turning the surrounding area dark, and within seconds, 2 rows of 1,000 giant blades rise from the ground and just like his Shika the blades scatter into 1,000 tiny, slender blade fragments. They even had the same cherry blossom coloration. With that being done, they shunpa towards Captain Zaraki, who had taken the hollow somewhere else. Kenpachi was having the fight of his life. Cuts covered his body, his captain Haori was destroyed from the hollow's last attack and Zangetsu was still fighting him. He hasn't killed the hollow. He checks over at the hollow and notices the lack of cuts on him. That's not true now. He actually couldn't cut him because of the increased amount of those blue flame markings. They covered 2/3 of Zangetsu's chest now, and that helped shield most of his body. Because of the increase of those blue flame markings, the swords on his hands don't switch to protect him and then when he gets to cut him, the wounds heal instantly. Regretting this now? Zangetsu asks him with a grin on his face. Kenpachi just gave him one back. He could start feeling the effects of all the blood loss. However, before he kicks the bucket, he's gonna give in to one last attack. Reaching over to his face he yanks off his eye patch releasing even more power than before. Now where was he hiding all that? Zangetsu notices how the Shinigami was gathering all his Ryatsu. Probably his last attack. Kenpachi jumps back, sword raised high and pouring every strength for his last attack. Prepare yourself, Zangetsu. This is my last move. Yellow spiritual energy swirls around him, trees starting to blow away. Zangetsu raises both of his blades up, connecting both blue blades into one with a dark red spiritual energy swirling around him now. After a second of building up, Kenpachi let out a battle cry and brought down his blade and a yellow wave of spiritual energy soared towards the hollow. Zangetsu. After only a second of Kenpachi releasing his attack, Zangetsu brought down his blade with both hands, Getsuga Tensho. Both attacks connected. Yellow and dark red were in a stalemate until Zangetsu broke through and cut down the man from his right shoulder to his hip. Zaraki's crazy smile still on his face as he fell unconscious, taking a note on how the hollow's last attack wasn't even a killing blow. When Captain Kuchiki and Hitsugaya appeared, they saw Kenpachi fall back with the hollow turning towards them. I'll get Kenpachi away and put him somewhere safe, Toshiro told Byakuya. Only getting a nod, the turquoise-eyed Captain shunpa over Kenpachi fast and left. Zangetsu finally got his chance to battle Captain Kuchiki and with how all those cherry blossom petals seemed to increase in numbers, he guesses the man finally used Bankai. So are we gonna introduce ourselves? Kind of what Kenpachi did, anyway. The fuck is this? Sheesh, why do I get the silent treatment a lot? Zangetsu Sonido away when he noticed the turret of blossom petals coming at him. Byakuya kept all his senses open. While the hollow was fast, he can still hear Sonido. Every time the hollow came back to view, he sent Senbonzakura after him, keeping him away and giving him no time to think of an attack. Reappearing again, Zangetsu looks at the captain somewhat annoyed. Hisonido, this time not dodging blossom petals but an ice dragon instead. How can they both still be up? Looking over at Captain Hitsugaya, he notices how the boy seems to be in a better fit than the man. He moves away again, avoiding blossom petals this time. He looks back towards Kuchiki and notices how the man seems to look pale now, left hand on his chest. Pretty boy got hit nasty, I see. Zangetsu turns towards Captain Hitsugaya. A plan already forming in his head. When Zangetsu disappeared again, Captain Hitsugaya dropped his guard. Hoping for the plan they both thought about would work. With the sound of Sonido coming behind him, he left himself open. When Zangetsu cut through the captain with ease, he knew something was up. Turning back towards Kuchiki, he notices how the man's right arm is held up. Following his arm, he saw the man's bankai above his head. He tried to move, but couldn't. Looking back at Captain Hitsugaya, he notices how the boy seems to shatter like ice. He looks down to his feet to see ice keeping him stuck like glue. I should have seen this coming. Gokii. Turning back towards Kuchiki, he noticed how the man's arm was now aiming at him. The man's bankai seems to create a spherical formation of innumerable blade fragments, which swirl around him like a cloud before flying towards him from every angle. Watching Senbonzakura raining down on the hollow was a relief to Captain Hitsugaya. He made the ice around the hollow's feet durable. Letting out a breath, he was about to shunpa next to Byakuya when the static sound of a sonido reached his ears, and by the look on Captain Kuchiki, the same thoughts went through his head. When Byakuya noticed how close the hollow was to him, with his blade already coming down, left him no time to bring back his Senbonzakura to protect him, and even if he could, the hollow was inside the hurtless area. He doesn't even know if he has the strength for a quick shunpa. When the blade finally came down, he let out a scream as he felt the most painful feeling ever from having his right hand serve clean. Done with the man now, Zangetsu punches him in the face, hard enough to knock him out. Just lifting his blade with his right arm, he blocks the small captain's attack. Pushing back the white-haired boy, Zangetsu noticed how he was barely keeping himself from falling over. Probably from the surprise Siro and maybe from using some good amount of power for that ice clone of his, and also with how strong he made the ice around my feet. While Toshiro made the ice strong, it was just not enough to hold him. Before he could battle the boy, he felt the way his mind drifted off. Shit. I'm losing control. Using so many powerful attacks cut down my time. Thinking fast, he thought about a simple way out. You know they're gonna die, right? He notices how the boy looks over at Byakuya. A good amount of blood poured from his arm, where he cut the man's hand. That's what you get. Maybe it wasn't an even share for what he did to Lily, but, meh. He doesn't care, he only promised not to kill them. This is what will happen, kid. I'm gonna walk away from here now. You won't follow me at all. I'll leave, and you get to save them. Got it? A tense silence washed over the area. I could keep fighting and hope to kill this hollow with the cost of Kenpachi and Byakuya dying from heavy injuries. Or I can just let this thing walk away and I get to save them both. It wasn't a hard choice for Captain Hitsugaya. He put down his blade and looked down in shame at having a hollow tell him what to do. His pride in being a Shinigami captain taking a blow. When he heard a sonido, he quickly looked up, thinking the hollow trick him, he brought his sword up to defend himself. Seeing no hollow around, he relaxes a bit. A hand went to the earpiece. Hello, anyone there? Captain Hitsugaya. Is everything okay? Captain Kuchiki and Zaraki's heart pulse are very low, yours not so much left behind either. Toshiro was glad the one who picked up was Akon and not Captain Kuratsuchi. No. Nothing is okay. We need a medic squad ASAP. With Stark and Sale. The pair have been a worrying mess. They kept feeling all the power going around the place, however, feeling the way two of them seemed to get weak meant that the possessed Ichigo took care of them. But then one last Shinigami's Ryatsu remained. Do you think it's all over now? Seo looks over at Stark, but the man was still looking at Lily. Thankfully, the girl no longer looked dead with the way some color had come back to her. I hope so, was all Stark said. Not even a second after saying that, both Stark and Seo heard a sonido. Turning towards their right side, they both saw the hollowified Ichigo again with some cracks on his skin. Fuck. His voice changed between Ichigo's and the other one. Before any of them could ask what was happening to him, the entire body cracked and started releasing erasure everywhere. Once everything settled down, the body of Ichigo was lying on the ground. Although something was missing. While he still had his clothes, his white skin's gone and a peach tone took its place. Stark looks over at the black mask hollow. Well, that's weird as hell. Just getting a nod from Seo, they both relax a bit. Now that everything was over, Stark walked to Ichigo's body and picked him up. Okay, I think it's time to go home now. Before Stark could even try to open a garganta, they heard a voice behind them. No need to leave so soon now, Hollow-san. Turning around, Stark and Seo saw a man wearing a dark coat which sports a white diamond pattern along its bottom half, with a dark green shirt and pants underneath, a striped dark green and white bucket hat on him, messy and light blonde hair under the said hat. A fan over his mouth. Gray eyes were watching over them. How did they not sense him? Before Stark or Seo could take action, the man turned around and started walking. After not hearing the hollows following him, the man turns around. Follow me before this place gets swarmed with Shinigami. Still not seeing them move, the man said the one word that will make them follow him. If you come with me, I can keep you all safe until both Ichigo and the girl recover. That seems to get a reaction from the group. Stark was the one who asked the big question. Who the hell are you and how do you know Ichigo? Grinning at the back of his fan that was covering his mouth, the blonde decided to at least introduce himself. The name is Kisuke Urahara, and for the second question, well, you just have to come with me now. It didn't take long for Stark and Seo to make up their minds. They both started sensing a large group of Shinigami in the park. With only one option left, they both grab one kid before they follow Kisuke. Seo has been feeling anxious about the way he could sense all the Shinigami. Fortunately for them, the Shinigami that appeared at the park felt rather weak and they chose not to follow them. That still didn't seem to reduce his anxiety with how they're now following some mysterious man who showed up and asked them to come with him. But why are we even following him? He turned towards Stark. The brunette was holding Lily close to his chest. Looking her over, he notices her color returning. She was pale before because of the blood loss. Turning his head around to look at Ichigo, who he was holding with his branch-like appendages, the boy was still out cold. Just what are you, Ichigo-kun? With the power he displayed at the park, the thing he became, and the loss of his ivory skin color, Ichigo was becoming a bigger mystery with each passing day. Coming to a stop, the group was now in front of a small shop. There was nothing special about the place the man brought them to. It just looks like an average store. The only thing it had was a sign that read, Urahara Shop. Looking back to his guests, Kisuke said, well, let us all go inside now. He slides open the door to his shop and gestures inside. Shall we? Seo stares at the back of the blonde man. Does he honestly think we will follow H? He stops when he sees the way Stark seems to listen to the blonde. Grabbing one of his arms with his appendages, he whispers quietly to him. Stark-san, I don't want to believe that you'll follow this man inside now, are you? We really don't have a choice right about now, Seo. Choice. The hollow hissed back at the word to the brunette. What do you mean by that, Stark-san? All we need to do is open a garganta, never look back at this place and be back home again. Seo would never talk to Stark like this. He was, after all, way more powerful than him. While the mask kept him alive around him, it wouldn't keep him alive if the man fired a Ciro at him. The brunette turns his blue-gray eyes towards Sale's amber orbs and says, "Can you still sense them?" The black mask hollow didn't hesitate to reply. "I can, Stark-san, and that's why I think we should leave and head back to Hueco Mundo." His voice was no longer quiet, seeing how the blonde man was now inside the shop. Stark kept staring at Sale, waiting to see if the hollow got what he meant. After a few seconds of silence and Sale not saying anything, he said it again, but this time putting emphasis on the keyword. "Can you still sense them?" Sale stares at Stark with confusion, thinking about what the man meant. "Why wouldn't I?" Then after a second, he finally realizes what the man meant. He looks over at the redhead he was carrying. "I can sense them," Sale said, finally getting a grasp on what the Arrancar meant. Stark nodded. "Exactly. We shouldn't be able to sense them at all now that we have Ichigo with us. Which means right now with Ichigo-kun out cold, he's no longer having his ability on." Stark shook his head. "This has never happened before. When Lily and I first found him 2 years ago, he was out cold for a bit, but his ability was still there. But now we can finally sense everything around us." Sale was still looking over at the redhead. Could it be his white skin that kept such ability on? Letting go of the man, Sale follows behind Stark inside the shop. "Most likely. Seeing how this is the first time I ever saw Ichigo with a peach tone color and no cloaking around us." When they both were inside, they started looking around the shop. The place looks just as average on the inside as it does on the outside. "Welcome, you must be the guest Yura Haradano mentioned, yes?" Turning towards an opening door, they saw a tall, muscular, lightly tan-skinned man. His hair's cornrowed and has a large handlebar mustache, which connects to his long sideburns. He was wearing a pair of rectangular-shaped glasses. His attire comprises a white muscle shirt with regular pants and a blue apron. Everyone was quiet. Stark and Sale noticed the way the man seems tense. Just after a few seconds and done with the silence, Stark gave him a nod. "Yeah, I guess we're the guest Urahara spoke about. Unless you were expecting someone else." Tessai went stiff with the man in front of him. He could sense his power. It was actually quite a frightening amount of power coming from the brunette. He looks over at the black mask hollow. He has seen many hollows throughout his life, but never with a black mask. Looking back at Stark, he introduces himself with a bow. "Tessai Tsukabishi. Coyote Stark, but you can just call me Stark." Sale at least returned Tessai's bow with one of his own. "Sale Aporo Grands, you can just call me Sale for short." Done with the introductions, Tessai asked them to follow him towards Urahara, who was down in the basement. They both gave him a skeptical look about following him down to a basement. However, telling them how Shinigami could still sense them up here and in the basement was their only option at staying hidden. With that being said, they follow the man, with their guard up. Seeing him lift a hidden door and watch him climb down left them both speechless. Looking down at the hidden door, both hollows saw a whole new place under the shop. While the man was still climbing down, the brunette got a hold on the hollow and Sonido down. Now on the ground, Stark and Sale started looking around the basement. The place was immense and appears to be a desert valley. Looking up, they noticed the way there seems to be sunlight. Down here, there were even clouds down here too. However, squinting his eyes, Stark notices how the clouds in the sky don't move. They look painted. Liking the view? Turning around, Stark saw Kisuke sitting on a rocky hill. He went back to looking at the fake sky and couldn't help but like the view. It has a nice laid-back feel to it. Looking back at Kisuke, he said, kind of honestly, has a pleasant mood to this whole place. Putting on a goofy smile on his face, Kisuke replies to the brunette with much jovial pride in his voice. "I'm glad you like it. It took me a single day and night to make all this." The shaggy blonde wanted to laugh at their reaction, but right now wasn't the right time for that. Hearing Tez sigh coming from behind him, he decided it was time for the hard part now. He doesn't know why they follow him, he expected them to leave through a garganta if he's been honest with himself. I guess saying Ichigo's name convinced him. Urahara knew how the black mask hollow of the group had been skeptical of him the whole time, while the brunette had been on his guard, he still willingly followed him. Why? He doesn't know. Maybe the man has his own agenda or something. Giving them a smile before hiding it behind his fan, Urahara said, "You know, it is rude how you haven't introduced yourself yet. Coyote Stark, but I prefer Stark. Sailaporo Grands or Sail for short." Finally, knowing their names now, Urahara tries pushing his luck more. "If you can just lay down Ichigo and the girl, my friend here could start healing them now." The atmosphere around the group became hushed and tense. After a few minutes of nothing but silence, Stark decided it was about time for some answers. "How do you know Ichigo?" While Stark still had a relaxed expression on his face, Urahara noticed how his body was anything but relaxed. The brunette was on high alert. "How about a question for a question, Stark-san?" Stark frowned. Why would he ask us anything? The blonde man hasn't done or shown any signs of having something up his sleeves. Besides, I could get more answers. Giving the shaggy blonde a nod, he waited for his reply. Lowering down his fan and giving him a small smile, Urahara answers him, but not the entire truth. "I know who Ichigo is because I knew his mother." The answer was simple, but he saw how a small frown reached Stark's lips. So he's keeping his answers short and easy. He was expecting something like this. He gave the man a nod, guess he'll keep his answers short too. "Why are you here, Hollow-san?" The fan was back up again, hiding half of Urahara's face and his bucket hat shifted down a bit to hide his eyes, concealing his serious face. Stark's body went stiff. Before, when the man said Hollow, he was expecting him to be talking about Sail, but it looks like that wasn't quite the case. "He knows I'm a Hollow." Now, with more questions coming to his mind, he answers back to the man. "Ichigo remembered where he was from, so we came here." Removing the fan from his face and moving his head up a bit, Urahara looked straight to Stark's eyes. He tried looking for any signs of lying. While Stark's body was tense, his eyes didn't show any form of deception. Just getting a nod, Stark asks his next question. "How did you find us?" Something was telling him that the blonde man couldn't have known where they were. From where his shop was compared to all the way from the park, Urahara had to know before Ichigo's transformation happened for him to show up at the park at a perfect time. A way too perfect timing. "You could say a little kitty told me." Urahara told Stark. The brunette nodded, and while he sure didn't like the answer, it at least told him how someone either saw or they sensed them. "What was your purpose for coming here?" "I find it hard to believe you all came to the human world for some clothes." Stark looks down at his clothes. To be fair, the man was right, but it was Ichigo's idea that they even got clothes. He gives the blonde a lazy shrug. "To be fair, we didn't have any plans for coming here. Ichigo just brought us here, we got some clothes, and he started showing us around." "All right, so he's not lying about it." Urahara nodded. He knew already how that was the truth. Seeing how it was the same thing that Yoruichi told him. He just needed to be sure they wouldn't be lying about it. "How do you know who Ichigo's mother is?" Stark doesn't see how knowing Ichigo's mom should let them heal the kids. This time not hiding his serious face, Urahara looked straight into Stark's eyes. "Because I helped save her life before." It was a half-truth statement. It was thanks to Ichigo's father, who sacrificed his Shinigami powers, which saved Ichigo's mother. However, it was also thanks to his invention that saved her too. Stark's face has gone deadly serious. It was one thing for Urahara to say he knew who Ichigo's mom was, but to say he knew the redhead's mother by saving her life, that was an entirely different expectation than what he expected the man to say. However, Let us stop with these questions now, Shinigami-san. The atmosphere got even tenser than before now. Stark was still in eye lock with Urahara. His words didn't faze the blonde. Putting a hand on top of his bucket hat, Urahara said. And how did you conclude that I'm a Shinigami? Stark brought a hand up before he started counting out his reasons. For one, you didn't even deny it. 2, you knowing we're hollows means you can sense us. 3. What if I'm just a human who can sense that you're a hollow? Urahara covers half his face again, eyes not leaving Stark's. Quiet the observant one are you, Stark-san. 3. If you were human, then you wouldn't have invited monsters to your house. 4. You completely said how it only took you 1 day and 1 night to create this underground basement. No way a normal person could do such a feat. What if I'm a hollow? Hollow or human, decide on which one you want to be now. Urahara lowers down his fan and gives the man a good-natured grin. Well then, guess I should reintroduce myself. Kisuke Urahara, former Shinigami captain of the 12th Division and the first president of the SRDI. Following his lead, Tessai reintroduced himself. Tessai Tsukabushi, former Kido Corps commander and Grand Kido chief. With that being said, both Shinigami noticed the brunette relaxed while the black mask hollow seems to get a bit paler. Both of them were former captains. What kind of situation did you bring us into, Stark-san? Sale was freaking out by this point. There's no way for them to escape from here. He notices how everyone else is more relaxed now. All except for him. With everyone but the hollow relaxed, Urahara asked the one thing that had been on his mind. Excuse me, Stark-san, but may I ask a question? Just getting a lazy nod back, he says, why did you follow me here and didn't go back to Hueco Mundo instead? While your friend here seems to want to be anywhere else but right here, you came here willingly. Why? Sale turns his head towards the brunette, wanting to know why Stark followed the blonde to his shop instead of just going back to Hueco Mundo. With everyone's eyes on him, Stark started walking over to Urahara, who tensed up before relaxing again when he saw the brunette put down the girl on the ground. Sale, while following his example more hesitatingly, did the same and put down Ichigo next to Lily. Urahara didn't even say anything before Tessai went up to the children and started healing Ichigo with a simple Kaido spell. With his blue-gray eyes on the kids, Stark answered the blonde's question. The reason I follow you is cause it felt like a safer bet coming here than going back to Hueco Mundo. That got everyone confused. Before Urahara could ask in what way was it safer, he heard Sale questioning Stark first. Stark-san, how can Hueco Mundo not be safer for us? Sale moves in closer towards Stark, the brunette was still looking at Ichigo getting healed. Looking at Sale, Stark said, without having Ichigo's cloaking ability, it will only leave us open for anyone to find us. That could be a problem. How would that be any form of a problem? Wouldn't that be easier than for us to go out and hunt? You're powerful, Stark-san. Sale finishes with a bewildered look on his face. Urahara put in his own remark. I agreed with your friend on that statement. You're a powerful hollow yourself, maybe the most powerful I have ever felt. What kind of trouble could you not handle? Looking at Lily, who was now getting healed, Stark only said one word. Barragan. While it left Tessai and Urahara clueless, Sale knew what the man meant now. You're thinking without Ichigo-kun's cloaking ability he could find us, or one of his subordinates could find us. But if that was the case, then we could just stay over at Minos Park then. That would just be a bigger risk then. You probably don't know this but the hollow we saved today was the guardian of Minos Park. He once told Ichigo how the Shinigami sent squads over to Minos Park. If that's true, then there's nothing stopping them from sending a squad over to Hueco Mundo and getting rid of us. Before Sale could reply, Urahara interrupted him. Excuse me, Stark-san, but are you sure this guardian was positive about Shinigami being in Hueco Mundo? Turning over the blonde, Stark notices the way he got serious again. As an ex-captain, shouldn't he know this already? Stark lifts one of his eyebrows before he answers back to the blonde. Before Sail over here became a part of our group, we went to visit the once forest of Minos, where we ended up saving a hollow's life from a Shinigami. I don't remember everything Ichigo told me, but he said how the Guardian was sure on how squads of Shinigami have gone into the forest of Minos and started killing hollows off. He finishes while scratching the back of his head. It was maybe around 3 or 4 months when all of that happened. Hard to tell when you don't have a way to tell time. He looks over at Urahara and notices the way his bucket hat hides his face, muttering to himself about something. Looking up, Urahara locks his eyes with Stark's. That shouldn't be possible, Stark-san, for a Shinigami to go into Hueco Mundo, let alone a squad of them. Are you sure this Guardian senses an entire squad or maybe just one man? Now it was Stark and Sail turn to look clueless, while Tessai and Urahara seemed to get a dreadful look on their face. Before Stark could ask the blonde anything, he heard him ask another question first. Tell me, Stark-san, have you ever met a man named Sosuke Aizen? He noticed how both Tessai and Urahara's body became tense, almost ready to go into action. Stark cocked his eyebrow again, this time answering him about everything without leaving out any details. No, the only ever contact with any other person or thing has been Ichigo. Lily has always been with me, and Sail over here just joined us. Every other hollow just dies by being near me. Watching how the blonde only gave him a simple nod and turned towards Sail was a relief for him. He doesn't know why, but something told him he must have dodged one hell of a bullet. How about your Sail-san, have you ever met said man, and before you say anything, care to tell me how you got a black mask? Urahara questions the only hollow of the group. Feeling scared of the dangerous look Urahara was giving him, Sail truthfully said, No, never, Urahara-san. The only people I have ever been in contact with are Stark, Lily, Ichigo, my brother, and a few hollows. I met no one else, and for the black mask, that was Ichigo who did this to me. Urahara kept his eyes locked with Sail. While the hollow looked scared, the blonde didn't hear any form of lying in his words. He lets out a sigh of relief. Well, that's some good news now. Stark and Sail gave each other a quick glance before the amber-eyed hollow asked the blonde. Who's Sosuke Aizen? Giving the hollows a goofy grin, Urahara brought up his fan again and said, Who's Baragon? Stark let out an exaggerated sigh. Not this again. Losing his goofy expression, Urahara told them the truth. This would be one way to not just gain their trust, but to make sure they kept away from the man. Aizen is the one responsible for making me live in the human world. Before he could continue on with his explanation, Tessai interrupts him. The children's are all patched up now. With everyone turning towards him, Tessai went over his examination. Ichigo-kun here seems to be fine. I couldn't find anything wrong with him, he'll just be out for longer. His face turns confused when he looks at Lily. The girl, however, is. How do I say this? In a strange situation. Seeing the worried expression on Stark's face, he elaborated more. It's nothing too grave, Stark-san. She's all healed up, but her Ryoryoku feels empty and weak. However, her strength is slowly coming back to her. I don't know how she isn't dead with all the Ryatsu you're letting out, Stark-san. Stark looks at Lily. So far she seems okay and not dying. What did he do to her? Well, he should be glad about how she's not dead, but still. He looks at Tessai and guesses why she wasn't dying. Is because of the black mask. It used to be because they were only one soul. However, when he felt what seemed to be their connection severed, the only thing that would keep her alive now would be the black mask. Tessai looks over at the young girl's mask. Just like the hollow of the group, it was the same color, but what does the coloration of a mask have to do with keeping one alive with someone like Stark around? Sending a nod towards the brunette, Tessai sat down on his knees next to Urahara, who was ready to explain. Clearing his throat, Urahara went over a bit about Aizen and why he's a former captain. You see, around 100 years. I was a newly appointed captain of the 12th Division before I got fraud for a crime I never committed. Charged with the crime of me putting 4 captains and 4 lieutenants through holification. He saw the confused look on both Stark and Sale. Sure, he was telling them about how he became a former captain, but it all happens because of Aizen. Around 9 years after becoming a captain, another captain told me about a series of strange disappearances that had taken place in Rukongai. The captain for the 9th Division and a few of its members went out towards Rukongai to investigate. Later on that day, a member of the investigation team requested that I send a researcher to the investigation site. I asked my lieutenant to carry out the task. Later that night, I heard that the Ryatsu of the investigation team had disappeared. I hurried back to the 12th Division looking for my lieutenant, but I was too late. I requested to go to the site myself, but the captain commander denied my request. I still went anyway, and my friend Tessai saw me and came with me. Both hollows are still confused about Urahara's story. It doesn't tell them who Aizen is or why the ex-captains became tense after asking them about the man. However, they both just kept their mouths shut and waited for the blonde to continue on with his story. I arrived just in time to stop Aizen from killing one of the captains, but he wasn't alone, he was with 2 henchmen. Asking him on what he was doing here, he just gave me some excuse for coming to help his captain. I noted there were no injuries on the victims, and that someone infected them with holification. We tried to stop him, but he got away. After that, well, what much can I say? I helped the victims at least. But they found me, put me on trial, and were about to have my powers sealed when another friend saved, not just Tessai and me, but the holified victims. The story still puzzled Stark. So Urahara told them how he became an exile, but still, it kind of didn't tell him much about Aizen or why both Tessai and Urahara became so tense at all. Something was telling the brunette on how there was more information hidden from them. He wanted to ask more, but before he could say anything, Urahara asked them who Baragon was. Stark having mostly no actual idea on who Baragon is, Sale was the one who spoke. Well, you see, Urahara-san, believe or not, Hueco Mundo has a king. Sale noticed how the blonde's eyes seemed to gleam with interest. Well, he couldn't blame him, a Shinigami was learning a little about Hueco Mundo. Now, the king of Hueco Mundo is a powerful hollow named Baragon. No one knows how he became king to be exact. Maybe he's king because he defeated the last one, but if that was the case, then maybe Baragon had been ruling for ages, since no one seems to know or remember who the previous ruler was. Or maybe there never was one, and he named himself King of Hueco Mundo. With Baragon naming himself king, how he began his rule is a mystery. The only thing anyone knows about Baragon is that he's a powerful hollow if he could keep an army of his own in check. Any powerful hollow that appears, or he comes to learn of, gets an invitation to be part of his army. Most hollows would refuse the invitation. We're predators by nature. We don't really let anyone tell us what to do, we live by only one rule, and that is to eat and evolve. Now, when they refuse his offer, Baragon's subordinates find them, and when that happens they report back to their king. Then Baragon himself kindly asks them to join, but whenever he kindly asks, most hollows die. Urahara had an idea where Sale was going with this, but for Baragon to go after them they must have gotten an invitation already. How does one get an invitation? Usually one of his most loyal subordinates searches for strong hollows that either they or Baragon himself had in mind. Sale answered back. Well, that sure made it clear. So you guys came across one of his subordinates and refused? Is that the reason why you're refusing to go back? Urahara asks. Scratching the back of his head, Stark answered that question. No, and yes. That's not how that happened. It was an accident. During one of my hunts, I accidentally killed the messenger with my Ryatsu. He only gave us the threat about Baragon not liking what we did. Stark started scratching one of his cheeks. Thinking about it now, with Sale explaining more, I refused the invitation by killing him. But, damn, that was maybe around .1 year ago. The only way we ever stay out of Baragon's radar for so long is because of Ichigo's cloaking ability. So Urahara had a better idea now, but still, they already had Ichigo. They could have just left now. Right? I understand the situation you all got yourself into, but you had Ichigo with you. All of you could have just gone back and let the cloaking ability do its work. All he got was a shake of their heads from both of them. We believe Ichigo's cloaking ability came from when he had his white skin. Usually within a 10 yards radius around Ichigo will completely hide anyone. But with an amazing ability, there's a flaw, and that flaw is how one can't sense outside the radius. The Black Mask Hollow answered back to the blonde. So now both Tessai and Urahara know the situation a little better. Ichigo's skin is a peach color, not the white they have seen on him. So now the group of hollows has to wait for either Ichigo's cloaking to come back naturally or have the boy learn how to. Urahara brought up the fan again. He notices how Sale seems more relaxed now, the same as Stark. He heard Tessai getting up and said about bringing down some tea. He asks their guest if they wanted anything but they just said no. Stark apparently didn't need to eat and Sale probably was still on guard around them. He watches Tessai leave before he turns back towards the hollows. He pushes his luck again and hopes they have opened up enough trust in him to answer one last question. Stark-san, do you mind if I ask you something? His only reply was a simple nod. How did you ever meet Ichigo? Urahara lifts one of his eyebrows when he notices the small smile on the brunette's face, and before he knew it, Stark was telling him pretty much everything from their first encounter and so on. Finding Ichigo in the white sands of Hueco Mundo, Stark invites him to come with him and Lily, hunting food for Ichigo, their visit to Forest Park, meeting Sale, and coming to Karakura town. The blonde notices every simple smile when talking about Ichigo, every twitch of his eyes when Lily and Ichigo pull a prank on him. It was strange. Urahara could see the happiness in Stark's face. Strange. When Urahara asked Sale when he first met Ichigo, he gave him a different story. Apparently, Ichigo saved his life from his own brother. The hell? He said nothing and listened to how Sale had been spying on Stark, Lily, and Ichigo. How he one day got close enough to speak with Ichigo, how he asked Ichigo to eat him, and then how Ichigo fixed his mask. Urahara took a sip from the tea Tessai had brought. The light-tan man was back to his side. Honestly, there were just so many questions he wanted to ask, but there's one he wanted to know for sure. Sale kind of explained why he joined Ichigo. The kid saved his life, but what did Ichigo do to get Stark's attention, or better yet, Stark-san? What does Ichigo mean to you? Sale looks over at Stark. That was a question he had wanted to ask the brunette, but felt like it was too personal. The brunette looked up to the fake sky. What did Ichigo mean for him? He never thought about it before. He looks back to Urahara, noticing how everyone was paying attention. Not knowing what to say exactly, he just spoke from his soul. Ichigo became our escape from the loneliness that Lily and I live in. Before Ichigo even came around, it was just Lily and me. No other hollow could come near us without dying. I don't know how long we spent like that, we never kept track of it. Then he came, just out of nowhere. He could be around us without dying. He once said if he would end up being alone, so I gave him. No, I gave us a way to stay away from that lonely path. Stark stopped to catch his thoughts. There was more to what Ichigo meant for him. While the idea was an escape from loneliness for both of us. Somewhere down that road, we became a family. He finishes while scratching the back of his head. He noticed the way Tessai's face became teary and was cleaning his eyes with his apron. Sale gave him a nod of understanding, and Urahara was hard to figure out, and all he got was a nod. Before the blonde could take another sip of his tea, he heard a small groan. That got everyone's attention and they all turned around to see Ichigo standing up. Ugh, Where am I? The redhead started looking around him. This was not the weird beach where he met Zangetsu, the white desert of Hueco Mundo or the green Flourish Park. He did, however, spot Lily, who was unconscious. He rushes towards her to make sure she was fine when he stops upon seeing the peach color on his skin. It's not white. Was Zangetsu right about my skin? Before he could go back on checking on Lily, he heard Stark's voice behind him. Turning around quickly, he notices a blonde and a light-tan man. Ichigo looked at the brunette. Stark, what's going on? It's an interesting story. Soul Society. It's been over a day since he locked himself inside his office after being released from the 4th Division, the medical division. 5 days have passed since the disaster in the human world. Word got around fast throughout the entire Godiai 13 about how 2 captains came into the 4th Division heavily wounded. No one knows what truly happened, and only Captain Hitsugaya has been the one who came back the least wounded of the bunch. However, after coming back from the human world, the young captain has shut down anyone who asks him about what happened. Toshiro releases a quiet sigh when he finishes writing his report. His wounds weren't so severe, he just had some burn marks and was just exhausted, so they released him today. While Captain Unohana told him to rest up longer, he softly refused her instruction. There was a report to write about their failure. The white-haired captain just kept rereading his report for the 10th time already. His face turns bland every time he gets towards the end of the report. He didn't want to put in the part where he listens to the hollow and allowed him to leave. I did it to save both Captain Kuchiki and Zaraki. That's what he was telling himself repetitively as he kept writing that last part. Lying back in his chair, Toshiro looks up at the ceiling. He pinches the bridge of his nose and releases another sigh. Turns out both captains weren't in such grave danger as he had imagined. Well, not true, Byakuya was in a mess with his hand cut clean and the gash on his chest. But besides the blood loss, nothing really was wrong, and the gash wasn't deep enough for it to be fatal either. Kenpachi's only problems were the cuts and the blood loss, but even then the man was already out after the 2nd day. He looks down at his report again. He didn't have any names for the humanoid hollows that show up. Thinking back on that day, he heard no names between the hollows. Well, he didn't, that's for sure. So maybe Byakuya or Kenpachi did? Wouldn't hurt to ask them. Getting up from his chair, Captain Hitsugaya opened his office door and watched as his lieutenant wasn't doing her job and was drinking instead like always. The lieutenant in question is Ranjaku Matsumoto. A young woman with a curvaceous figure with long and wavy blonde hair, blue eyes, full lips, and a beauty mark located under the right side of her mouth. Her Shinigami robes were slightly loose to reveal her large breasts. He didn't want to deal with her right now. He notices all the piles of paperwork still on her desk. He should be all over the strawberry blonde and berating her about doing her job as a lieutenant. Looking back at the report on his desk, Toshiro thought about giving her the simple task of having her go over towards the 1st Division to turn in his report. It was probably a bad idea to ask her, but seeing her still drinking made his left eye twitch. Lieutenant Matsumoto, mind telling me why you're not doing your job? Hearing her captain, Ranjaku got up and embraced his head between her breasts. Captain, you're out of the hospital. Well, shoot. There goes her nice vacation now. It was nice while it lasted. Releasing her captain, she notices how his eyes went over her desk where all the paperwork was. You can't expect me to work while I was under stress about my captain being in the 4th Division now. When people become stressed their hair turns gray and I can't have that happening to me. Captain Hitsugaya just loves how she sounded more worried about her hair than his well-being. With his left eye twitching dangerously he replies, and what stops you from trying to come by to visit me? With an innocent smile on her face, she lies to her captain by saying, well, I heard you were in a mess like Captain Kuchiki and Zaraki, so I left you alone while you recover quietly. That seems to not be the right words because she could see how her captain was about ready to freeze her over. Toshiro just pinches the bridge of his nose again and starts heading towards the 11th division since it was much closer than the 4th. Before leaving, though, he looks back to his lieutenant. I need you to turn in my report over the 1st division. Why me? You can ask anyone else to do that. Not even looking back at her, the young captain says. Because everyone else is doing their job. Rangiku watches as her captain leaves before going into his office. Her blue eyes stare at the report. She should probably do this fast and enjoy more drinking before her captain comes back, or everyone has been wondering what happened in the human world. She looks behind her, making sure no one was there before she started reading. Captain Hitsugaya just knew he did something stupid. Knowing Rangiku, she'll probably end up reading his report before she gossips about it. He was ready to go back and deliver the report himself when he shook the feeling off. Word will get around eventually. He was sure that any given moment that Byakuya was released from the 4th division, a captain's meeting would transpire. Not even walking far, Captain Hitsugaya was already at the front gates of the 11th division. Going through the gates, he looks around him and notices how a few of its members look injured and walking towards the 4th division. Toshiro shook his head. The young captain could already guess where everyone was at. Navigating through the 11th division by just following Captain Zaraki's Ryatsu, Toshiro came across the division's training grounds. He notices how every member of the 11th division was here, and right in the center of the training grounds was Kenpachi with a Bokken sword. Kenpachi's blood has been boiling for some action ever since getting out of the 4th division. The fight with Zangetsu is still on his mind. He could still feel the cuts on his body aching. He wanted to feel that fire when fighting again now that he finally found someone who wouldn't die so easily if he went all out. Looking around the crowd, he spotted Captain Hitsugaya among the rest of his division. He sends the young boy a toothy grin. What are you doing here, Captain Hitsugaya? Turning towards the white-haired Shinigami, he rested the wooden sword on his shoulder. Came here for a bit of practice with me? He sends Toshiro a challenging grin, hoping to bait the captain. Ignoring his challenge, Toshiro only answers the first question. I just came here to ask you a couple of things, Captain Zaraki. He said while crossing his arms in front of his chest. You can ask me those questions while you give me an easy duel. Kenpachi's grin grew across his face, but seeing how his taunt proved useless, he frowns. TCH, so much for that. Guess I won't ever get to fight another captain soon. Seeing only a nod from the man, Toshiro says. Did you already turn in your report? Kenpachi groans before answering back. Yeah, I did. I turned it in yesterday. By any chance did you hear any names between the hollows? Toshiro notices the return of Kenpachi's grin. Actually, the wicked-looking hollow's name was Zangetsu. It hushed all the 11th division members upon hearing the name of the hollow who defeated their captain. When Kenpachi returned to his division, everyone saw the crazy grin on his face, asking what happened in the human world. All they got from the man was, I got one hell of a fight. He didn't go into much detail, and he was battling all the members of his division until he felt satisfied. Watching Captain Hitsugaya leaving, Kenpachi asks, does it matter for you to know the hollow's name? Toshiro didn't stop and kept on walking. Heading back towards his division now that he knew the name of the demonic hollow, but before he was out of earshot, he screamed back to Kenpachi. No, it doesn't. Because he'll just be like any other hollow when we're done with him. Seeing how Captain Hitsugaya left, Kenpachi looked over his division before he started taping the wooden sword on his shoulder. So who's next? He gave them a toothy grin before he picked someone. Human world. Stark has been watching Ichigo over the past 5 days and notice how the redhead has been quiet for most of the time they were down in Urahara's basement. When he tried to explain everything to Ichigo about what happened, the blonde pulled him to the sides and told him how he shouldn't tell everything to the boy. Especially about Aizen and how Urahara knew the redhead's mom. Not liking it but going along with it, he told Ichigo everything except for what the shaggy blonde asked him to not mention. Soon after that, the boy has been quiet and has been watching over Lily. He released a quiet sigh. It's been 5 days and Lily was still out. Tessai has been checking on her daily and has been saying the same thing every day. Seeing Ichigo with the lack of his white skin was an unfamiliar sight for Stark. Having known the redhead for the past 2 years with white skin became a normal sight, and seeing him with tanner color on him was weird. Well, at least he kept his eyes. Hearing footsteps, Stark turned around and watched as Urahara came into his view. "It's ready, Stark-san," the blonde said while bringing up his fan. On the second day with Urahara, the blonde asked both him and Ichigo to put in a bit of their Ryatsu inside a special glass flask. After Stark asked Urahara why he would need that, the blonde told him about how he would create a special jigai for them while they stayed in the shop. Following the former captain, Stark turns back and looks at Ichigo with a quick glance before he whispers over to the blonde. "I know we're done with the questions, but do you mind answering something for me?" "I guess I can do that." "What is it?" The Shinigami replied, not even looking back at Stark. "I've been wondering, what is it you saved Ichigo's mother from?" Stark asks. It has been bothering the brunette all this time about why a Shinigami would save a human's life. Unless. Seeing Stark stop in his tracks, Urahara turns towards the brunette. The blonde could see the gears on Stark's head working. "Did you figure it out already? She was human, right?" While Stark sounded a bit confused, he was sure about what he said. There's actually no reason for a Shinigami to save some random human's life unless she was something important, like a Shinigami. Watching how the shaggy blonde lowered his fan was a hint he guessed either right or close to it. "I could tell you, Stark-san, but I think it would be better if you ask Ichigo's dad instead." That was all he got from the Shinigami. Ichigo's dad? Why would I ask him? Is he a Shinigami as well? Was Ichigo even a normal human to begin with? With nothing more said, Stark follows behind Urahara towards his lab. Apparently, the blonde had a lab here too. When they got there, it left him speechless. It wasn't huge like the valley under them, but it was still damn big and with many inventions around. Looking around the lab, the brunette spotted Sale examining a weird-looking muscle doll. Urahara mentioned that he would work in his lab to help them stay hidden and the black mask hollow, while still a little nervous around the Shinigami, asked Urahara if he could come and see the lab, and he has been here ever since. Stark was a bit worried, but Urahara just told him it'll be fine. The shaggy blonde has even been joking around with Sale, calling him his apprentice, much to the irritation of the hollow. Hiding a goofy grin behind his fan, Urahara asks Sale, "Is the jigai ready, my young apprentice?" Seeing the way his appendages twitch was the only hint to Urahara that he was annoying him. Much to the Shinigami's joy. Turning towards the blonde man, Sale replied. "Yes, it's ready." Stark lifts one of his eyebrows. "Did you help make the jigai?" "No, I was just watching how he created it." "This is the same jigai that Urahara is using to hide Ryatsu," Sale said. "I would have made the jigai faster, but this was my first time working on making one for a hollow. Especially one who's strong like you, Stark-san. It had to be perfect so the Shinigami wouldn't be able to sense you and the jigai wouldn't end up getting destroyed with all your Ryatsu." Looking at the weird muscle doll, Stark looks over at Urahara and asks, "How does this thing work to be exact?" Coming up to the side of the doll, the blonde said. "It's easy. I fused the jigai with the Ryatsu sample you gave me so only you can go inside it. Right now it has no characteristic of you, since to finish the process you need to go inside the jigai, and to do that all you need to do is spread your Ryatsu around it and the jigai will start pulling you inside it. And to get out?" While Stark trusts the blonde more now, he won't jump into a faux body and find out he can't get out. "It's about the opposite of what you did to get in, just push yourself out," Urahara replied. Going over the muscle doll, Stark did as Urahara mentioned and spread his Ryatsu around the jigai. Feeling the pull, he listened to the instructions, he let the doll do its thing. After a while, he notices his body feeling numb. "You can open your eyes now, Stark-san." Hearing Sale's voice, Stark opens his eyes. He didn't feel any different, but noticed how he started feeling the cold air around him. Being a soul usually means you don't feel the weather. Looking down on himself, the brunette notices the lack of clothes. Looking around him, he notices how the clothes were all laid across on the ground behind him. Before he could say anything, he started feeling the appendages of Sale all over his arms. Looking over the hollow, Stark said, "What are you doing?" "Just making sure there are no flaws," Sale casually replies. Moving away from the hollow's appendages, Stark asks Urahara what happens to his clothes. "You mentioned how the clothes were only covered with erasure so it just hides them from anyone else's eyes, but they are still normal clothes," Urahara said. Looking over the clothes, Stark asks, "So they're regular clothes again then? They don't have any erasure so people could see them now, right?" Just getting a shrug back, Stark started putting back his clothes. The brunette started practicing on how to move out and in the Jigai, glad the blonde wasn't lying about it. Done with that task, Urahara shows him the exit. Before he left, Urahara gave him a note with directions. Before he could ask him anything, he heard Urahara whisper to him, "This is where you'll find the answers you're looking for." Just giving back a nod, he was ready to walk out before he remembered something important. What about the Shinigami? Shouldn't they be all over the town looking for us? Before Urahara said anything, a deep male voice spoke from behind him. "Don't worry about the Shinigami. There haven't been a lot of them lately and there are only a few around this side of town." Looking behind the blonde, Stark spotted a black cat that was licking its paws. He kept staring at the feline. Did the cat just talk? He kept watching the cat until it left through a window. Guess not. Urahara watches as Stark leaves. Once gone, he heard Tessai speak behind him. Was it wise to tell them so much, Urahara-dano? Not even turning to address Tessai, Urahara went back to his lab. "We need them." "You're using them, Urahara-dano," Tessai said. With Stark. Stark was worried people couldn't see his clothes, but his worries vanished when he noticed how everyone was acting normal. Even a couple of them smile and wave at him, most coming from some very gorgeous women. Just giving them a careless wave back seems to bring some of them towards him for a strange reason. He dodges every question they ask him like a bullet. Getting directions from the last girl who approached him, Stark started heading towards the Kurosaki clinic. Stark felt weird being around so many people. Back before he was alone with Lily, he wanted this, to be around other beings without killing them, and now here he was, but it felt strange. He still felt alone, and he knew why. The brunette left his train of thoughts when he felt something landed around his neck. Looking to see what landed, he notices it was a black cat. He doesn't know why, but something told him it was the same cat he saw behind Urahara. "You're awfully far away from your house, buddy, maybe you should go back before you get lost." Stark reached over the cat to put it down, but before he could touch the cat, he heard the same deep voice but in a whisper. "Don't worry about me and stop daydreaming before you end up lost." Stark stops walking and stares at the black cat, but being so close to the cat, he was able to see the way its lips move and the deep voice that came out. "What the fuck?" The black cat wraps itself around Stark's neck before it gives him directions. "Turn left around this corner, then keep heading straight for another 20 minutes and you'll be there." Stark just kept staring at the cat before he remembered what Urahara said about how he found them. Something about a kitty telling him. Following the directions the black feline gave him, he reached his destination. It was a strange place since it looked like someone connected the clinic to the side of a house. Noticing the sign on the clinic saying "Open," he walks towards the door, but before going inside, he felt the black cat jumping off him. No pets allowed inside a clinic now. This isn't a vet. the black feline said before it disappeared from sight. Walking inside, he hears the voice of a man. "I'll be there in a minute." Stark didn't wait long before a man around his height with black hair, brown eyes, and a white lab coat came into his view. "Yes, how can I help you?" the man said with an emotionless voice. Stark just stares at the man. How should he say this? Ask a few questions if the man knew a redhead kid? Or maybe be more straightforward and ask him if he was Ichigo's dad? Before he could say anything, the brunette could feel a bit of Ryatsu coming from him and he knew what he was sensing. "You're a Shinigami. And you're a hollow." The man replied, still with the unemotional voice. Isshin knew what this man was. He saw him over at the dojo Ichigo used to go. He couldn't sense that the brunette was a hollow, but when he saw him with the black mask hollow, the girl and the thing that looks like his dead son, he already knew they were hollows. He would have followed them around town, but hearing the man saying his dead son's name froze him on the spot. He didn't want to believe that his son was actually there, he rather believed that he was dead. So he can slay the hollow that took his son's appearance with no hesitation. Stark was freaking out on the inside when the man called him a hollow. He was sure Urahara told him the truth and that the Jigai was hiding his Ryatsu. Did he lie to him? Was everyone else back in Urahara's basement in danger? No, Urahara didn't lie. If he did, then the other Shinigami should have sensed me. Calming down a bit, Stark introduces himself. Coyote Stark. Still not losing his indifferent tone, Isshin introduces himself too. Kurosaki Isshin. This was by far the most awkward moment in Stark's afterlife. At least it answers the question about Ichigo not being a normal child. So should I get to the point already? Feeling how the atmosphere seems to become even more uncomfortable, he blurts out. So are you Ichigo's dad? Don't you dare say his name. Isshin's voice took a sharp edge. It took Stark by surprise in the change of tone. What the hell? Maybe he started by saying the wrong thing first. Look, I just came here because Urahara said you could answer a few things about Ichigo dash. I told you to not say his name. Stark shut his mouth when Isshin screamed at him, and by what the man said, it had to do with saying the redhead's name. I think you should leave now, Hollow. Isshin said. Well, this is going smoothly, he's getting kicked out, and he still has gotten no answers whatsoever. What triggered him, though? Could it be that Isshin never cared about Ichigo? The thought of Ichigo's own father never caring for the boy as a son angered him. What the hell is your problem? Stark sends the man a hard glare. Isshin, not backing down, returns the glare with one of his own. My problem is that you're saying my son's name like you know who he is. That's because I do, actually. With a harsh voice, Isshin said, and let me tell you why that's bullshit, Hollow. My son is dead. The Shinigami looked down and his voice started sounding heartbroken. I was there when they buried him right along with his mother. Stark didn't miss the sad direction Isshin's voice took. Maybe I was wrong. So the man still cares for the boy, but why would he sound so mad about it though? The brunette tries to calm down the Shinigami. Look, Ichigo has been with me for the past 2 years now. He's fine. Isshin just shook his head. Rejecting that thing was his son. Is not my son. That thing isn't my son. You saw him and you still don't believe what you saw was Ichigo. Stark guesses if he knew how he was a hollow, then by some chance the redhead's father saw him with Ichigo. Looking up again and staring into Stark's eyes, Isshin spoke in a depressing tone. What I saw was a hollow who looked just like him. There's nothing left of my son in that thing. Isshin needed to keep his mind clear. Ichigo's gone, his soul is somewhere in Seoul SOC. I can prove you wrong. Coming out from his thoughts, Isshin went back into focusing on Stark. If Isshin was refusing to believe that Ichigo isn't still the same kid as when he was alive, then Stark will just need to mention what the kid still knew. He still remembers his family. He remembers you, his twin sisters, and his mom. Hell, the only reason we're here is 'cause Ichigo remembered his home. That's not enough for me. Why? Hasn't he thrown the hollow out? Why was he hoping for Stark to say the one thing to prove how wrong? Why was he still holding on to hope for his dead son? Stark could see a bit of hope in Isshin's eyes now. He was getting close to the man, and all he needs to say is more. But what else can he say about the Ichigo that was a son to Isshin? The redhead hasn't said too much about his past life besides his dad, mom, and sisters. What else did he mention? There were actually a couple of things Ichigo remembered before they came to the human world. Karen and Yuzu, those are his sisters' names, and his mom was called Masaki. Some hollows can see the memories of the souls they ate. Isshin stated. So names won't do, huh? Stark scratches the back of his head. Maybe he should say something more important. Or something only Isshin would ever say to his son. He who protects. What? Isshin stares at the brunette with shock in his eyes. Lily was once poking fun at Ichigo's name by calling him a cute strawberry until the redhead told her how his name means, he who protects, something that his dad told him. Stark said. He could see the conflicting feelings in Isshin's eyes now. It muddled Isshin. It's exactly how Ichigo would try to defend his name by always correcting everyone about what his name means because he told him. But that thing can just remember that as well. The Shinigami shook his head hard. Trying to find some reason for the hollow to act like his Ichigo. No. He wouldn't remember something like that. He would have gone through the stages of evolution like any normal hollow and forget about something like that. It was a stupid excuse, and he knew it. Hollow or not. We both know that Ichigo was anything but normal from the very beginning. Isshin looks down at the ground. Stark was right. Ichigo was anything but a normal human soul. Especially with his father being a Shinigami and his mother being a Quincy. Looking back up, Isshin abandons the thought about Hollow just appearing as his son and accepts that Hollow is actually his son. Has my boy been okay? It didn't feel strange to ask that question. He's a father worried about his son. Stark let out a quiet sigh. I got to him. Well, maybe I should start from the very beginning. Urahara's basement. Ichigo heard when Stark left to go with Urahara, but the redhead didn't care. He's too worried about Lily. Tessai had said that she's fine and she'll recover soon, but he has been saying that for 5 days now and the lime-haired girl still hasn't woken up. He who protects. Yeah, well shit, guess what, kid? Have done a little of that, huh? You have never once been in a fight yourself to protect anyone. So let me ask you this. What are you going to do once you go back to your friends, eh? You're just going to die. That was the hard reminder from Zangetsu on how weak he was. If he had never let Zangetsu take over his body, then Lily would have been dead, Stark would be dead, Sale would be dead. He would have been dead because he's weak. He doesn't know how to protect anyone. Didn't he go to a dojo when he was alive to protect his mom and sisters? He was learning how to fight to protect them. Ichigo's yellow eyes spark with determination. I'll change. I'll learn to fight. I'll learn to protect those who mean something to me. He looks at Lily. I won't let anyone ever hurt you again. Thoughts about asking the strongest person he knew to help him train. Unknown to the redhead, Urahara was close by to hear the boy. An idea coming into his head. Kurosaki Clinic. Isshin has been listening to Stark's story for the past 30 minutes inside his house. There was so much he wanted to ask. How did Ichigo stay human instead of becoming like any other hollow? Half Shinigami and Quincy couldn't have done something about that, right? At least Ichigo didn't become some monster, well, not like the rest of the hollows, that's for sure, and his son was more like Stark. That reminds Isshin of something about the brunette. All his years as a Shinigami and he has never heard or seen a hollow that looks human. The closest thing he can think of is Vastolord, but with the only Vasto Lord he had ever seen before, they still held a lot of hollow features. What kind of hollow was Stark? What kind of evolution was the man at? Ishin shook his head. The man was the farthest thing from a hollow at this point. The man did everything he could to keep his son safe in the world of Hueco Mundo. Even hunted for them. All because the brunette saw his son as part of a family. Ishin started massaging the temples on his head. He would never in his entire life think about putting the words family and hollow in one sentence before, but here he was. The man didn't even miss any smiles from Stark when he was talking about Ichigo in his story. The Shinigami lay back more on the chair. The thought he would end up killing his own son was such a dreadful idea. At least Ichigo was safe. For now. If what Stark told him about the park incident was true, then Godiai 13 will not stay quiet about it. They will send captains here soon. Then there was the thing Ichigo turned into. The description of the hollow his son transforms into closely resembles the one Masaki killed all those years ago. But then Stark said how Ichigo let the hollow take over to save them. Was there something he missed from that hollow all those years ago? Then there was Aizen. What is that man behind now? He could feel the amount of headaches coming to him. His Shinigami's power has slowly been coming back to him ever since Masaki died. Figure since the Jigai Urahara made sacrificed his powers so that Masaki wouldn't die from soul suicide because Hollows and Quincy's powers don't mix. Talking about the shopkeeper, Ishin was curious about why the man sent Stark here. Why did Urahara send you here for Stark? Oh, that's right. The brunette almost forgot why he came here. I kind of wanted to know what Urahara saved Ichigo's mom from. It got me thinking about why a Shinigami would bother saving a human life, but I got the answers already. Guess Ichigo was a half Shinigami then. Not just half Shinigami. Stark just looks at Ishin with a curious look in his eyes. What more could Ichigo be? He was half Shinigami and now half hollow. He was sure more couldn't fit in that pot. Ishin releases a sigh. Guess I will have to tell you a bit about my story then. Around 20 years ago, I was a captain in Godiai 13 before I deserted my position and married Masaki, Ichigo's mother. But before all that happened, there were a lot of problems with Shinigami disappearing from a nearby town. Going to investigate the site, I found a couple of my division members there. Before I knew it, they were both killed by a hollow. Ishin's face turned grimace. It was a strange hollow. It was a black hollow, and its hole was close. But that's about as hollow as it was because the creature fought like a Shinigami. Ready to finish the hollow, I was then cut down from behind. I didn't know who it was back then, but Urahara told me about Aizen later on. Stark was becoming more worried when he kept hearing that name. Why was Aizen involved in so many things? First was Urahara and now Ishin. Not going to interrupt Ishin's story, he continues listening. The hollow put me in a tough spot and before it could fire a Zero, however, Masaki interrupted it. Seeing the confused look on the brunette's face, Ishin says. The way she could fight and even kill the hollow was because she was a Quincy. She was a spiritually aware human able to absorb and manipulate Raisher into spiritual weapons. This is how she could kill the hollow, however, it came with a prize. Leaving after the incident and then coming back did I learn that Masaki was on the brink of death. She got infected by hollowification. Hollow and Quincy powers can't mix because hollow powers are poison for Quincy. To save her life, Urahara made a Jigai that would attach my soul to Masaki's, but by doing so I lost my Shinigami powers. From there I marry Masaki and well, yeah, the rest you know already. Stark lay back and thought about the whole thing. Shinigami, hollow and now Quincy. The redhead was really a giant enigma. From what Stark could remember, the only thing Ichigo has shown was hollow powers. Actually, what powers do Shinigami and Quincy have? I don't think I have seen enough Shinigami to know what they can do, and I have never seen a Quincy before either. Well, for starters there's how Shinigami have a Zanpakuto with them, they can use Kido spells, and have high Ryuryoku. Isshin scratches the back of his head. Those were basically the most common things Ichigo could have done if he had Shinigami powers. For Quincy's powers, however. Isshin gave Stark a shrug, sorry Stark, but can't remember much about Quincy powers besides how they can gather Rapier and make a bow from it. His memory was a little blurry about it. A playful grin came over his face. I guess I can go bother Ryukin now. Isshin sober up. So now what? The Shinigami will hunt his son now. His powers haven't returned completely, and it will take a few more years for them to come back. Then there was Yuzu and Karen, they would get pulled into this entire mess. What can he do? Or not him? Stark has been watching over Ichigo for 2 years now, and so far his son has been safe. Should he leave his trust in Stark's hands to protect Ichigo? He couldn't sense any power from the brunette, but with everything he had told him, he seemed determined to do so. He just needs to motivate Stark to get stronger now. Stark, can you promise to protect him? The brunette lifts one of his eyebrows. That's kind of what I've been doing for some time now. Isshin shook his head. That's not quite what I'm asking. I want you to get stronger, to protect him, Stark. Aizen, Baragon and the Gotei 13 will be after you guys. You can't stay in the human world forever, and when you return to Hueco Mundo, Baragon will try to find you guys. Ichigo is just a kid right now Stark, he doesn't have the power to defend himself. Maybe later, when he's older, you can teach him or when he'll ask you. Trust me, I know Ichigo and he will ask you to teach him, you're the most powerful person he knows so far. Taken by surprise, in how Isshin was putting way too many responsibilities on his shoulders, Stark says. Isshin, you're putting way too much trust in me, shouldn't you teach him instead, or better yet, you can see him yourself back in Urahara's basement. The Shinigami just shook his head. And teach him what? He's not a Shinigami, so I can't teach him anything I know, and he has shown no signs of using Quincy powers. Even if he showed it, I can't teach him enough since I lost most of my power and I'm barely coming back. Not hearing why Isshin won't visit the redhead, Stark said. Why can't you go see him? Is better right now that Ichigo doesn't know any of this, Stark. This could be too much for him at the moment. He didn't want to stay away from Ichigo, but what can he do? Besides, Ichigo is in excellent hands right now. Running a hand through his hair, Stark looks at Isshin. Alright, I'll do it. Giving the brunette a nod, Isshin looks over at the clock on the wall. School is almost over for Yuzu and Karen. Getting up, he shows Stark the door. Thank you for watching over my son. Just getting a simple nod from the brunette, he watches him leave before he closes the door behind him and starts heading towards his daughter's school. His soul rests knowing that Ichigo, while been a hollow, is still the same boy as he was alive. A goofy expression came to his face when he remembered about the girl his son had taken a liking to. Masaki. Our son has found us a third daughter. Isshin said while screaming at the heavens. Stark has been quiet while walking back towards Urahara. Isshin has put a lot of trust on his shoulder now, but he won't back down. Isshin honestly didn't have to tell him to get stronger. He was already planning on speaking with Urahara about teaching him the basics of how to fight. With the disaster that happened in the park, he will be sure it never happens again. Reaching the shop, Stark noticed how there was no one up here. Getting a bit worried, he hurries down to the basement and Sonido towards where he could sense everyone at. Before he could say anything, he saw a kid with raven black hair and amber eyes turn around and started screaming at him. Stark! Stark! She woke up. Lily is awake. Stark looks over at the kid and notices how he looks like Ichigo. Ichigo? Is that you? Looking down to himself, the kid gave him a nod. Yeah, it's me. Urahara-san kind of made my jigai different. Saying how people might recognize me, so he changed the eyes and hair. Before Stark could say anything, he heard the voice of Lily after 5 days. Stark. Looking over at the lime-haired girl, he notices the strange look on her face. She looks confused. What's wrong, Lily? He notices the way her face became blank before she looks at him. I'm hungry, Stark. The group of hollows sweat drop at her remark. Before anyone could say a thing, they heard Lily's stomach growling. Urahara and Tessai noticed the odd look the hollows were looking at the girl. Releasing a long sigh, Stark started rubbing his forehead. He repeated Lily's comment back to her. You're hungry. Lily didn't even say anything and let her stomach speak for her. Hearing her stomach growl again, Stark only said 2 words. Well, fuck.